Hello everyone, if you're new to my channel, consider liking and subscribing. It will make me feel wonderful if you do that. Thanks. By the way, I also have another Naruto and Luffy fanfiction channel. If you are interested, link is in the description.
At the age of 15, Luffy dies. Due to an astronomical chance, a higher dimensional being and an individual from another universe, he gets a new life, infused with memories of a vastly different version of himself. Follow a self-aware Luffy as he navigates his messed-up world, armed with new knowledge, and tries his hardest to make everyone around him as joyful as possible. Adios.
You've already seen 3 of them. First is Soru, Luffy said as he demonstrated Soru by running circles around a man who was wearing crab-themed armor with 2 mechanical pincers sticking out his back on the deck of a pirate ship. They had arrived at an island a few minutes prior where Luffy had quickly befriended a little girl wearing knight armor called Medaka, and after learning that her father, along with many of her villagers, were being enslaved by a pirate called Ganzak, he had decided to help out. After successfully freeing the people who were being forced to work in a factory to build weapons with Zoro and Nami taking on all the opponents while Luffy concentrated on getting everyone out, only their captain, Ganzak, was left, who Luffy was facing off against. Ganzak fought mainly using his crab-themed armor and pincers which could jab and dent even steel, and could even hold and fire guns. Luffy had immediately thought of Doc Ock when he saw the pincer-like arms and thus started calling him Doc Crab, which infuriated Ganzak greatly as he didn't like to be called a crab. Zoro and Nami were watching from the sidelines as Luffy had said that he wanted to show them some techniques. It had been just a couple of days since they dropped Makino off and just over a week since Luffy had officially met the two, so he decided it was about time he started telling them about the Rokushiki and Haki. He didn't want to overwhelm them with information, so he eased them into it by explaining the Rokushiki first. How are you so fast?" Ganzak exclaimed in shock as he spun around trying to aim at Luffy while he seemingly disappeared and reappeared from place to place. "Right. So this is where you kick off the ground more than 10 times in the blink of an eye." Zoro nodded as he observed from the sides. "Yeah," Luffy confirmed, stopping next to him. "Next is airwalk, which is nothing but kicking off the air so hard that it becomes like a platform." "I still think that that's your devil fruit power," Nami said accusingly. "Nope, anyone can do it if they train hard enough," Luffy grinned before standing in front of the two. "There you are," Ganzak yelled at him as his mechanical crab pincers brought out guns and started firing at him. "Next is Iron Body," Luffy continued nonchalantly as bullets rained down on him. "You saw this back in Shellstown too. You basically flex your muscles so hard that it becomes as hard as iron." Bullets got crushed at the point of impact and fell to the ground as the two watched in wonder and Ganzak in bewildered shock. "You just flex?" Zoro asked, confused. "No, I'm sure it's just armor," Nami said before lifting his shirt up and finding nothing, again. "Are you gonna feel me up again, Nami?" Luffy smirked and Nami blushed, smacking him on the head while yelling, "It's not like that. She anyway, to learn this, you just gotta keep getting hit hard while you try to tense up your muscles." "I see." Next is Kami-e or paper art. "I just learned the basics of this," Luffy said before he got close to Ganzak, who was looking at him in shock. "Attack me, Doc Crab," Luffy said when he just kept staring. "Ah, don't call me Crab," Ganzak yelled before his 2 pincers started attacking him. Luffy let his body loose, his body acting like paper, as he dodged all his attacks seemingly by flowing out of the way. A minute of dodging later, Luffy came back to Zoro and Nami's side without being hit even once. "You basically just completely relax your body and let it flow like a piece of paper." Not really my style," Zoro said, and Luffy nodded, agreeing with him. "Yeah, but it'll help someone like Nami a lot, I guess," Nami nodded, seeing the merits of learning it. "You," Ganzak yelled from across the deck, "stop running away." Next is Rankyaku. Luffy continued ignoring him as he pulled his leg back and kicked at Ganzak. Nami, Zoro and Ganzak's eyes widened when a wind blade originated from Luffy's kick and went straight at Ganzak. He screamed, turning his back and trying to run away, but the wind blade was faster and slashed him across his back, breaking apart his mechanical crab armor while also leaving a slash on his back. He fell down defeated and Luffy turned to the other two, basically, a wind blade. You concentrate on making your kicks fast and precise until a wind slash forms. He then looked at Zoro and added, you can get the same effect with a sword too. A sword wind slash, Zoro mumbled, a bit in shock. The last technique is Shigen. I haven't learned it, but you jab your finger so fast like this, Luffy said as he thrust his finger in front of him, that it leaves a bullet-like hole in the target. I'm more of a punching guy, so didn't bother to learn it. He then airwalked before continuing, these are just the basics, but you can do way more variations of each of these techniques when you advance a bit and even mix different techniques. Like you can use Soru while airwalking, he said as he moved in space, seemingly disappearing from one spot to another as he took down the pirate flag on the ship to signal to the people on the island that Ganzak was taken down before coming back and landing in front of the two. That's called Kamasora. You can invent more stuff yourself once you get the hang of a few techniques. I see, Zoro nodded, letting out a deep sigh. He remembered Liz saying that she had heard of these techniques too, so this wasn't something unique to Luffy. There are more people who are stronger than me. Luffy worriedly watched the two's reaction. Zoro was gripping his swords tighter as he looked frustrated and contemplative at the same time, while Nami, on the other hand, had a blank, unreadable look on her face. Zoro was easy to read. He was realizing that Luffy was much more stronger than him, and so was re-evaluating his own strength. It was like he was receiving his wake-up call earlier and from Luffy instead of Mihawk, which would be advantageous for Zoro as he would perhaps have a better mindset while facing Mihawk in the near future. He would still face a near-death defeat from his goal, and that would be a much bigger wake-up call for him. But Nami's reaction was strange. She had a blank look on her face as if she was forcing herself not to think, and Luffy couldn't get a read on her. He wondered what she was thinking about, but before he could ask, Zoro spoke up. Hey Luffy, Zoro said in a serious tone, I want to learn wind slashes the most. Soru and Iron Body too. Luffy grinned, nodding, let's spar whenever we get the chance. Zoro nodded gratefully before Luffy looked at Nami, who instantly shook her head, seemingly back to her normal self. You said I get hit to learn them? No thanks, I have my amazing shock staff after all. Not for all. You can try to learn Soru if you want. No, seems like it requires inhumane strength to even do that. It's impossible to imagine myself doing that. Yeah, you're more of a gadget user anyway, Luffy agreed. Straight up brawling didn't fit her fighting style at all, and he wasn't gonna force anyone to learn something they didn't want to. Well anyway, if you change your mind, let me know. Nami agreed before looking towards the island. Looks like they started celebrating. Yeah, it's feast time. Luffy cheered before he grabbed both of them and started airwalking to the island. Sometimes, I feel like you only help people and all because they'll have a party afterwards and you'll get free food. Nami giggled as she held onto him. Well, I won't deny I look forward to it. Oh, I'm completely sure that that's the main reason, Zoro added with a chuckle. She, what a strange pirate. Nami sighed with a fond smile, and they soon landed back on the island. Celebrations soon started and Nami and Zoro started partying with the people. But Luffy wasn't actually in the mood for long as he was still stuck thinking about Nami's strange blank look from earlier. She looked fine now as she challenged people to a drinking contest and wiped the floor with couldn't get it out of his head. He sat on a building tilting his head from side to side as he kept thinking about her, and before long, he was having tangential thoughts. A lot of tangential thoughts. Soon, he sighed deeply, cursing Leo for making him such a thinker, but also thanking him, before he went to Medaka. Hey, kiddo, Luffy, Medaka, a short young girl with red hair wearing knight armor, cheered seeing him. Come on, you should eat all you want. I am, Luffy chuckled as he patted her head. But first, do you guys have a marine base here? Yeah, but it was abandoned a long time ago, and the building was occupied by Ganzak. Show me the way, Luffy said, and the two slipped out of the party as she happily led him to the marine base. It was abandoned as she said, but he was only interested in the communications room. I guess the transponder snails are still here, but we don't have any numbers to the other bases, Medaka said, looking around the room for something like a phone book. Ah, don't worry, I have the number, Luffy said as he dialed Sengoku's number, which he had gotten from Makino. It didn't really connect if he just directly called from his own transponder snail. He had to do it from a marine base as it had to connect from marine base to marine base, sort of like relay stations, before it finally reached the marine HQ. And it took a while for the call to connect too, during which Luffy sent Madaka away saying that it was going to take a while and she should go back to celebrate. Hello? Sengoku's voice finally came over the snail. Yo Sen, it's me, you again? It hasn't even been like 2 weeks since you last called me. Sengoku grumbled, his voice clearing, taking an irritated tone. Ah, I can't call you whenever I want. Get to the point, brat, or I'm disconnecting. Okay, I have 2 things. First, the base I'm calling from. It's abandoned apparently. People on this island were enslaved for a few years under a pirate called Ganzak. I just defeated Ganzak and freed the people, but they'll still need a good marine presence here. Send someone good. There was a brief silence before Sengoku sighed deeply. Okay fine, I'll look into it. First, that Makino woman calls asking us to investigate and remove a corrupt marine captain. Suru's voice came over the snail next, and now you. Are you doing our jobs for us now? I thought you were gonna give us headaches? Well, that'll come later. For now, the main point I called, I need a favor. A favor? What makes you think we'll do you of all people a favor? Please, it's important. Sengoku took a few moments to think about it before sighing again. Well, you did just free an island, I'll hear you out at least. What is it? Great. I want you to, thanks for doing this, Sen, Luffy said half an hour later. Hope you aren't gonna keep using me like this. Oh come on, Senny, Suru interjected, and Luffy could feel that she was smiling wide. If he's gonna do stuff like this, then I'm 100% behind him. Hey kid, if you have a request like this again, call me directly. Here's my number, she said and gave her number out. I'm getting a headache now, Sengoku sighed, while Luffy and Suru laughed, before he added seriously, call me when this thing happens. I'm letting you do this, but I still want to know what takes place. I don't think I can. I have to call you from a marine base always to connect to you, and I won't be in a marine base when it happens. Just call a nearby marine base and ask someone to connect to me by giving them my number that you have. That's it. Oh, right, that works. Why didn't you tell Makino this? She said she usually had to go to the Goa Kingdom's marine base to connect to you? If I told her that she could do that to reach me, she would have called me like 10 times a day and screamed at me every time. Yeah, I guess. Well anyway, thanks for this. Bye-bye. Goodbye brat. Bye Luffy. Luffy disconnected the call before sighing deeply. That sure was tense. I didn't like talking to him like that. He shook those thoughts away as that would happen a bit later and decided he would deal with it when the time came. For now, he went back to the party to find Nami winning a lot of money from drinking contests and Zoro just drinking happily, so joined in. A couple of hours later, the Straw Hats left on their boat while the people on the island, especially Madaka, yelled heartfelt thank yous and goodbyes. Stay safe guys. Bye, ehehehe. Nami was grinning brightly while counting the small amount of treasure they had taken from Ganzak as they sailed away. That was a great haul, I'm so rich now. Can you not keep saying, I, while referring to our treasure? Zoro interjected with a sweat drop. Luffy said that I can keep all the treasure we steal. Nami snapped at him, hugging her treasure closely. So, yes, this is all mine. Zoro looked at Luffy questioningly. Really? Well yeah, I did say that. Like forever? Zoro asked, perplexed. Luffy gulped, realizing his mistake. He had said that when they first met without thinking too much about it, but of course, their treasure wasn't going to be 100% hers forever. Well, not forever, he hesitantly said, looking at Nami cautiously. She needs 100 million, so until we make that much, it's all hers, but after we collect that much, we'll divide it fairly. Nami wanted to snap at him, but she was also caught off guard by the words, after we collect that much. By the way things were going, it wouldn't be long before she really collected that much. And life after she collected 100 million and freed her people? She had never given it serious thought. Would she even be with Luffy after she collected that much? She didn't know, and before she could go into a thought spiral, she hastily shook her head, stopping herself from thinking about it, and changed the topic. Hey, anyway, we need to head to the Grand Line first. And for that, we need to find Buggy to get that map. Luffy sighed in relief, thinking he had somehow dodged a bullet, and cheered. Okay, let's go kick his butt and take the map. And his treasure, Nami added with a cheer. Oh. 2 weeks later, Orangetown. Everybody, raise your glasses high. I have the map to the Grand Line, and with the power of the Buggy balls, Buggy cheered as he watched the smoking cannon and the trail of destruction it had left behind in the town where a row of buildings was destroyed. I'll rule the Grand Line. Hooray! Luffy landed on top of the bar. Buggy was partying on just as he finished his speech and watched as his crew cheered loudly before they began singing, dancing, eating, drinking, and for some reason, a few of them started doing circus tricks like juggling with knives, unicycling, balancing on a ball, and so on. He didn't care much for them though when he saw rows of tables filled with food and drinks, and instantly went for it, seamlessly slipping into the crowd as he stuffed his face in while making his way towards Buggy. Yo, Luffy waved at him as he sat next to Buggy. Buggy tilted his head, studying him. Who are you? Hi, I'm Luffy. And I'm here to kick your ass and take the map to the Grand Line. Buggy froze for a second before he started laughing. Gahahahaha, you're gonna kick my ass? Hey, men, did you hear what he just said? Yes, we heard him. Does he think he can defeat the boss? Ha 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 ha. His men also started laughing while Luffy continued eating all the food. Yeah, Luffy continued unbothered, just wanted to talk a bit before I beat you though. You wanted to talk? Gahahaha. I'll humor you. What did you want to talk about? I always wondered how someone who sailed with people like Odin and Rail. Buggy's face paled as he immediately lunged at Luffy and clamped his mouth shut. How do you know that? He hissed. Who are you? She, Captain Buggy. What's he talking about? One of the pirates asked. You sailed with some? Buggy laughed awkwardly, waving him off. He's just joking. This is an old friend of mine and we joke like that whenever we meet. I'll go catch up with him. He then hastily separated his upper body and flew to the top of a faraway building while carrying Luffy. That scared you'll be found out, cabin boy. Ah. How do you know that, ya flashy bastard? Buggy screamed at him as they landed on a roof. Relax, I won't tell anyone. I was just curious. How did someone who sailed under him end up doing lame things like? He pointed at all the destroyed buildings. This. What do you mean lame, ya bastard? That's the power of my buggy ball. It's enough to level a small town. And, what the hell will something small like that do in the Grand Line? You've seen people who can split the sky with just a simple clash. What the hell will a cannonball do to them? Don't pit me against monsters like that, ya bastard. I'm not going anywhere near the New World. I'll stay in paradise and conk. Wait a minute. Before that, how the hell do you even know so much about me? She, calm down. Luffy chuckled, pushing his face back as he was agitated and kept getting right in his face as he floated in front of him. I just happen to know. That's not an answer. Damn, you're more snappy than Nami. Just relax, will you? I won't tell anyone. I just wanted to talk a bit before I kicked your ass. Who the hell are you, ya bastard? Luffy, future Pirate King. Pirate King? You will become the Pirate King? Gahahaha? Stop shouting so much, Luffy said as he pushed him back, feeling his ears hurt listening to his squeaky voice at such a close range. Don't be a fool. If a kid like you will become the Pirate King, then I'll be the Pirate God, this WOR. Stop screaming in my ears. Luffy snapped as he punched him in the face and his floating upper body got flung to the side. How dare you hit me? Buggy growled lowly as he brought out numerous knives. I kill you. Yeah, Luffy sighed. He really wanted to talk a bit with him, but he was way too excitable. Wait a minute, Buggy said as he finally spotted Luffy's hat dangling on his nape. That hat? He made the connection between Luffy knowing about his time with Roger and Shanks' hat, and came to the conclusion that Luffy heard about him from Shanks. That's Shanks' hat, he said, reaching out for it. Luffy swatted his hand away, saying, don't touch the hat, and yeah, Shanks gave it to me. That damn bastard did, huh? Buggy said as he let out a sigh of relief internally. Oh, thank God. I was wondering if this kid was someone from the New World, but turns out that damn Shanks yapped about Captain to some kid. Hey, don't badmouth Shanks. That damn bastard ruined my life. I'll badmouth him all I want. He made me lose a 100 million buried treasure and even made it so that I can't even swim. You see, we were both apprentices on Captain Roger's ship, and one day. Yeah, I don't need to hear that. Luffy put a stop to it. I already know. You ate your fruit accidentally, and Shanks saved your life when you fell into the sea. Did that bastard say that? He was the one responsible for making me fall in the first place? Stop, you're irritating. I just wanted to ask about how you turned out like this after sailing with someone like Roger. Buggy misunderstood Luffy for someone who wanted information about Roger and his ship's path, so firmly decided not to tell him anything. He never talked about his time with Roger as he didn't want his name associated with monsters like him. People would think he knew secrets about the One Piece, which would attract the attention of other monsters from the New World and the Marines, which would in turn make his life a living hell as he would be imprisoned or chased around. He didn't know if the stranger in front of him was just a kid who heard stories from Shanks or someone affiliated with one of the emperors, warlords or the Marines, so there was no way in hell he was revealing anything. He was leaning more towards him being just a kid who heard stories from Shanks though, as no one else really knew that he used to sail with Roger apart from maybe Whitebeard, but he still wasn't taking any chances. "You want to know about my time with Roger, huh?" Buggy said, deciding to probe for his affiliation, if any. "And why the hell would I talk to some no-name pirate like you, huh? There's no way in hell I'm talking about my time with Captain with you." Luffy sighed. "Well yeah, I guess you have no reason to. Let's talk when we meet on the Grand Line then. For now, I'll beat you up." "Gahahaha. You think you can defeat me? You're alone here while I have my whole crew?" Luffy grinned as he looked towards the roof where the Buggy pirates were partying. "Hey, guess they got impatient." "Huh? What are you talking about?" Luffy pointed at the roof and Buggy turned to see an orange-haired girl hyping up all her pirates. "Who the hell is that?" he yelled as he flew back towards the bar, and once he got close enough, he could hear the girl talking. Yes, that's the way. Form a long chain and you'll get to dance with me," the girl said, and his men cheered, forming a long line with each person grabbing the shoulders of the man in front of him. "Who the hell is that and what is she doing?" Buggy wondered aloud as he watched from the top. "She's my navigator, Nami," Luffy answered, airwalking in place next to him, "and as for what she's doing, you'll see." Buggy hummed with a hand on his chin, trying to guess what Nami was up to, and it took him 5 whole seconds to realize that Luffy was jumping on air next to him. "You're flying?" he gasped before realizing what it was. "You're using moonwalk." "Yeah, but look down there for now. Nami's finished." Buggy did look down and found that almost all his men were in a long chain while Nami watched them from the side. "Okay, great," Nami cheered. "I'll now dance with each one of you." "Yeehaw." She then walked up to the first man in the chain, who was grinning at her, and brought her shock staff out. "What's this?" he asked curiously. "You know, I'm on a roll right now," Nami happily giggled, bubbling with excitement. "I just took out a massive lion all by myself. Can you believe that? A massive lion? And I defeated it?" "Are you talking about Richie?" the lead pirate asked, a bit confused. "Yeah, I think that was its name. And now," Nami cattily grinned, "I'm gonna take you all out too. Hee hee, goodbye." She turned the intensity dial all the way up on her staff and jabbed it into the lead guy. Bazeeked. It was quite a spectacle for Luffy and Buggy, who were both watching from above as electricity coursed from one man to the next in the chain like a snake almost instantaneously, and each person's body started jerking violently as they got electrocuted. Luffy watched with a proud smile while Buggy's jaw hung wide open as he gaped at the scene. Unfortunately, somewhere around the halfway point in the chain, the intensity had decreased and one guy managed to snap his arms back, losing contact with the person in front of him, and thus everyone behind him didn't feel any shocks, but they were too stunned watching the other half getting electrocuted. Nami maintained her grin as she kept the shock staff in contact with the lead pirate for 5 more seconds before breaking contact, and half of Buggy's crew slumped to the ground unconscious. She then happily pranced to the side and sat on a barrel while the men who didn't get electrocuted glared at her. "You'll pay for that. You tricked us. What the hell was even that? You can come out now, Zoro," Nami yelled, unbothered by their glares, and an irritated Zoro climbed up the side of the building while mumbling, "Why am I the backup?" "Hee, don't worry, about half are remaining still." Zoro sighed. These guys look weaker than that unicycle guy, man, what a disappointment he was. Don't swordsmen fight with honor anymore? He sighed once more when the pirates started recognizing Zoro and began trembling. Let's just get this over with. He brought one sword over his shoulder while holding it with both hands, let out a deep breath, and poured all his concentration into the attack as he swung his sword diagonally in front of him as fast as he could while yelling, "Flying slash attack." And nothing happened. No wind blade originated like he wanted. He had been sparring with Luffy ever since he showed them the Rokushiki techniques, And as Luffy kept telling him, it wasn't something he could learn within a couple of weeks and would require intense training and plenty of life or death battles for him to grasp them. What's he doing? Did something happen? The pirate started muttering, causing him to sigh. He then brought out another sword before lunging right into the middle of them and used his normal sword skills to take them all out. Within less than 2 minutes, he sheathed his swords back after all the remaining pirates were down. At least he thought he did, but suddenly saw 2 disembodied legs dancing on their own in the far corner near a chair that looked like a throne. What the heck? What is it? Nami asked curiously before she too saw the dancing legs and yelped, "What the hell is that? Who the hell or ya flashy bastards?" A loud scream pierced through the sky and Nami and Zoro both looked up to find the upper torso of a man struggling under Luffy's grip, and his hands also seemed to be moving completely detached from his body. "Is that clown cut in half? And still moving?" Nami asked, watching Luffy fighting the upper body. She then looked down back at the legs and realized they were the lower body of the clown. She also realized that the legs weren't dancing but struggling. "Yeah, guess that's his devil fruit ability," Zoro said, realizing the same thing. They sure are weird. You think Luffy's power is even more weird, so that's why he hides it? Maybe. Meanwhile, Luffy was actually grabbing and tickling Buggy's stomach to keep him occupied. Buggy was going to intervene when Zoro was fighting, so he had grabbed him to keep him in place. But Buggy just separated his hands, which went towards Zoro, so Luffy started tickling and pinching his stomach, and the hands immediately came back to defend himself. "Hey, this is fun. Stop it, ya flashy bastard." Luffy did let him go when he saw that Zoro was done with the fight and descended to his 2 crewmates. "Is this the map to the Grand Line?" Luffy asked as he handed a map to Nami, which he had just stolen while tickling Buggy. She studied it for a few moments before nodding excitedly. "Yeah. This is it. We finally have the map we need." "You stole my map?" Buggy screamed as he descended too and combined with his lower torso while checking his jacket pockets, only to find the map missing. "You thief, give it back." "This is ours now," Nami said, sticking her tongue out at him. "You seem awfully playful right now." Luffy chuckled, seeing her childish behavior. "I just took down a massive lion and half the crew of a pirate who has a 15 million bounty. I'm high right now." "You took down Richie?" Buggy yelled again before looking around at the pile of bodies that were on the roof. "Where the hell are Moji and Kabaji?" "You mean them?" Zoro asked, pointing a thumb at a nearby building below which Kabaji was lying unconscious with slashes on him. Richie was lying unconscious with its fur sticking out like it was electrocuted. Moji was lying unconscious with his teeth broken, and across the 3 of them, an old man wearing leather armor was lying down unconscious while a white dog stood next to him protectively, who barked happily, wagging its tail while looking at the 3 straw hats. "Moji? Kabaji? What the hell happened?" They were patrolling the area when we arrived, I guess," Nami explained. "We were talking with the mayor and the dog when they spotted us. They recognized me," Zoro continued. "The unicycle guy picked a fight with me, so I fought him off. The lion tried to go for the dog's pet store, which is its treasure by the way, so I electrocuted it by jabbing my shock staff into its mouth. I kicked the fur cap guy," Luffy continued. "Then you launched a cannonball at the town, destroying a lot of houses. And that's when I came to stop you, and oh, the mayor was going to come to fight you, so I knocked him out too." They had come a bit earlier to Orange Town than in the story, but things hadn't changed much. They had still met Chow Chow, and Boodle had come to feed him as he did every day. Only 2 noteworthy things were different. One was that Kabaji had also shown up when they were talking to Boodle, and the other was that Chow Chow was friendly with Luffy from the start, which made him wonder why. I see, Buggy nodded after hearing what happened. "So all that happy wait, why the hell are you telling me this?" "Because you asked, right. I did as no, I didn't mean it like that." You're funny. Stop making fun of me. You think you've won? With the power of my chop fruit, I'm more than enough to kill you all?" Buggy then separated his whole body into a number of smaller pieces which revolved around his head as he laughed maniacally. Chop Festival. "You'll be fun to fight." Luffy lunged at some of his body parts, grabbed them and squeezed them in between his palms, making Buggy scream. "Stop that!" Buggy yelled as he launched a number of knives at Luffy, who swatted away all the knives before lunging at his head. He caught it in his hands before jumping off the roof of the bar and plunged down while holding Buggy's head towards the ground. Face smash. "You bastard!" Buggy yelled, trying to separate his head vertically into two to escape. But Luffy clamped both sides of his head, not letting him escape, and crashed into the ground, Buggy's head first. It created a very small hole in which his head got buried while Luffy let go and jumped back grinning. "You fucking straw hat bastard," Buggy hissed as his head floated out of the hole, glaring at him. A spinning foot with a razor sticking out of its shoe suddenly came straight down on Luffy, who just sidestepped to dodge. "Ag! Chop chop buzzsaws." Buggy launched both his feet at him before his hands started throwing daggers at him from all directions. "This is actually really fun," Luffy cheered, finding a fight to be fun after so long as he kept trying to dodge and punch the different body parts, but they just split before his punch could land. "Gia! Don't take me lightly," Buggy screamed as he changed tactics. "You care about your friends, don't you?" He smiled evilly before some of his body parts started heading towards Nami and Zoro, who were both watching from the roof thinking, "What a strange fight." "This is a one-on-one fight, Buggy," Luffy said as he used Soru to get in front of his head and pummeled it into the ground again. His body parts stopped advancing towards Nami and Zoro and came back to attack Luffy when he kept punching Buggy's head into the ground. You, straw hat bastard," Buggy groaned when Luffy stopped and his body reassembled completely again. "You and that bastard Shanks with your stupid straw hat, always ruining my life." "Don't insult Shanks or the hat, idiot." Buggy got an evil glint in his eyes as he heard that. "Seems like that hat is precious to him, huh? He didn't let me touch it earlier either, hee. Chop chop festival." Buggy split into many parts again, and this time, all his parts revolved around Luffy. "Gahaha. Let's see what you do when attacks come at you from every angle." His hands threw knives. His foot with a razor sticking out of his shoe came spinning at Luffy like a buzzsaw, while other body parts made it hard for him to see what was happening around him. And Luffy was enjoying the fight. Not in a, "This guy is strong, so it's fun fighting him," way, but in a, "This guy's power is fun to play around with." Luffy kept grabbing different body parts that came near him and squeezed them in between his palms, again split further. He wasn't using observation as it would become way too easy for him to dodge everything, and so, he relied purely on his eyesight to dodge any attack coming at him. And that was his mistake. He let his guard down, treating it like a game, and a dagger came out of his blind spot at his head. He dodged it at the last second, and then two more daggers came at his head again, which he dodged easily too, but froze when he heard a ripping sound. He instantly turned and saw that 3 daggers had been thrown at him, not 2, and the third one wasn't aiming for his head but his hat that was hanging on his nape. His hat was cut. "Gahahaha. That hat is precious to you, isn't it?" Buggy laughed, having aimed for his hat from the start. "You should take better care of it, gahahaha." Luffy slowly brought his hat in front of him and studied the damage. There was a rip at the top horizontally splitting it, and he sighed deeply seeing it. "I didn't say anything about the hat being my treasure, so thought he wouldn't aim for it. Guess I let my guard down, huh?" He then put it back on his head and lost the jovial nature he had until then before disappearing from everyone's sight. Gaha! Buggy, who was laughing at him, had his whole world suddenly turn white. One moment he was looking at Luffy putting his hat back on his head, and the next, he was on the ground as pain suddenly erupted from all over his body and he felt like he was whipped multiple times. And that's exactly what had happened. Luffy had first punched him in the gut, making his bend in half before he brought both his arms up and smashed his fists on his back, pummeling him to the ground. He then grabbed his leg and started whipping him on the ground like a rag doll in a very short few seconds, and it was too fast and painful for Buggy to even think about splitting his body up. And that was the first time either Nami or Zoro had seen their captain get angry. In every fight up until then, he would either have a very bored expression or he would be laughing around messing with his opponents, but this time, he had gotten a blank look on his face when he saw that his hat was damaged, and the way Buggy was being whipped told them that he was pissed. "Wow. I thought nothing fazed him, but he looks pretty mad," Nami commented, a bit surprised. "He did say his hat is his most important treasure, and he even named the crew after it. So, it really must be very precious, like my Watto." Yeah, both had heard him talking fondly about his hat, but watching him whip a man into the ground for damaging it made them truly comprehend that it was his most important treasure. Luffy stopped after a few seconds and sighed when he saw Buggy was badly bruised and had fallen unconscious. Can't get too angry or I'll end up killing him. He then spun around standing in place while still holding onto Buggy, spinning him around a few times building momentum before letting him go, and Buggy got flung far away into the sky. He sighed, letting his annoyance go, which was more directed at himself for letting his guard down rather than at Buggy, and looked at his hat again. Should be easily fixed. He nodded to himself before looking up to see his two crewmates and went to them. "Nami," he whined, presenting the hat to her, "fix it for me." Nami was a bit surprised at seeing the massive gap, at seeing his blank angry look and the whiny pout he currently had, and shook her head with a sigh before taking the hat. "Even you get angry, huh? Well, how would you like it if someone stole all the treasure you gathered?" "I would eviscerate them," came the instant response. "And if someone damaged your Wado? I would cut them into pieces." She same for me. Okay. Anyway, this is just a straight cut. It's an easy fix, don't worry." "Thanks, but I'll do that later. Now, I need to steal all their treasure," Nami said happily as she went in search of all of Buggy's treasure while Luffy and Zoro relaxed on the roof eating and drinking. Luffy also saw a few Buggy balls lying around, so grabbed a couple and put them in a sack to take with him, thinking that Usopp could analyze and add it to his arsenal. Nami came back a few minutes later while hauling a big bag of treasure on her back with a really excited gleam in her eyes. "Got to give it to Buggy. He had an eye for treasure at least. There's almost 10 million in here." "And what do we do with these idiots?" Zoro pointed at all the pirates who were lying unconscious on the roof. "The townspeople will take care of them." Luffy waved it off, and right on cue, they saw a large crowd of people coming towards them. They spotted Boodle lying down unconscious, asked the Straw Hats what happened. Luffy answered, and a minute later, the three Straw Hats were running away while the townspeople chased after them. "Why the hell did you have to tell them that we're pirates?" Nami groaned as they ran while Zoro and Luffy were laughing. They needed a win," Luffy answered. "They had their homes ransacked by pirates while they couldn't do anything, so them chasing us out of town will feel like a win in their books." That stunned both Zoro and Nami, with Zoro feeling his respect rise up for him and Nami wondering for the millionth time just how he called himself a pirate, at least, until he opened his mouth again. "But honestly, I wanted at least one place to chase us out of town like pirates. You know, everyone just treats us like heroes all the time." Luffy whined, and the two looked at him with a deadpan expression, realizing that this was his actual reason. "Moron. Idiot." Nami started calling him names as they ran while Luffy laughed. They ran through the town while the mob chased them, and as they neared the dock, Chow Chow came to help them. He barked happily at them as they passed by before standing in the middle of the street intent on not letting the townspeople pass. "Thanks, Chow Chow." Luffy smiled, waving at the dog as they passed by him, and when it barked happily at him, he could sort of hear the dog saying, "Leave it to me," in return, and he suddenly stopped, a bit stunned. Was that Chow Chow just now? It wasn't like it was a straight-up voice he heard, but more of a feeling that it was conveying those words to him. The townspeople showed up then, and Chow Chow started growling at them, not letting them pass, while Luffy concentrated on trying to confirm whether he actually heard Chow Chow or not. But all he could hear was barking and growling as he kept all the townspeople back. Luffy instantly remembered Grandpa Ryu from the story, where his story counterpart also doesn't really hear the dragon but still understands what it was saying, and wondered if that's what was happening here. "Luffy, what are you doing?" Zoro yelled, seeing that he had stopped, causing Luffy to finally came out of his thoughts. He spent a few more seconds trying to see if he could hear Chow Chow, but had no luck. Strange," Luffy muttered and started running away again, shelving the topic for now. They soon reached the dock. Luffy left about half of Buggy's treasure at the dock while the other two unfurled the sails, and soon, they were sailing away. It wasn't long before they heard Boodle yelling from the docks, "Whoever you kids are, thank you." "No, he ruined it," Luffy sighed but waved back with a wide smile. "Take it easy, old man." "Thanks," Luffy said happily, taking his hat back from Nami, who had just sewn the cut. It was just a line instead of 3 nashes like in the story, and it was almost unnoticeable, so he was more than happy with it. "Don't handle it too roughly now," Nami warned, putting her sewing out back, and Luffy agreed, putting it back on his head and flicking it back so that it hung on his nape. "So wasn't this like the 8th or 9th crew we've faced in less than 3 weeks?" Zoro asked with a smile. Yeah, I think so, Nami agreed while she brought out all the treasure they had gathered over the past few weeks and began calculating how much they were worth. First was the Leaper pirates where in Alvida. Then came to Shellstown. Let's consider Morgan as a pirate too. Then came the Bear Guy and his crew on Clock Island, Zoro continued. Bear King and Clockwork Island, Nami corrected absent-mindedly. Then we ran into an actual Brontosaurus. That was fun, huh? I said that seeing a Brontosaurus was absurd in East Blue and one popped up out of nowhere. Luffy chuckled before thoughtfully muttering to himself, did I tempt fate? It was just a sea creature that had a long neck. It wasn't a Brontosaurus, Nami corrected again. I think they called it a plesiosaur. It looked like a Brontosaurus though, sure. That led us to meet the Crab Guy and his crew, Zoro continued. Ganzak. And that's the second time we freed an island where people were being forced to build weapons for a pirate. Yeah. Then we met that Sound Guy and his crew, Eldorago, Nami exclaimed happily. He had so much gold. I gained a fortune stealing from him. Right. Then we met a couple of small-time pirates on the sea who attacked us. And we stole all their treasure. And then we met the clown just now, Zoro finished. I've been traveling the seas for a long time and I haven't met these many opponents to fight in such a short interval ever. It would be long weeks of nothing and finally, one good opponent, followed by weeks of nothing again. Yeah, me neither. I stole from like 7 different crews since I met you. That's a record for me. Yeah, Luffy nodded thoughtfully. It's been fun though. I'm not complaining here, Zoro smirked. I only wish the opponents were stronger. Yeah, Luffy sighed agreeing with him. A little while later, Luffy noticed that Nami had gone unnaturally quiet as she sat in front of all her treasure, as if in a daze. You okay? He asked shaking her shoulder and noticed that she was pinching herself. She slowly looked away from her treasure to face him and brought a hand forward. Buggy's treasure. Give it. Oh, it's here. Luffy gulped handing her the bag and as he feared, she instantly noticed that it was lighter and hastily opened the bag to find that half the treasure was missing. She snapped her neck at Luffy to ask why there was less treasure but found him closing his eyes and looking away as if expecting a punch. Where is it? I kinda left around half of the treasure back at the town. You did what? Nami asked dumbly. A part of their town was destroyed. Luffy hastily explained himself, they'll need it to rebuild. Nami blankly stared at him for a few seconds before going, oh, and nodded with a sigh. Well, okay then. Luffy waited for the eventual punch from her but nothing happened as she just moved on, adding Buggy's treasure to her stash and then went inside the cabin to put it away safely. Luffy just observed her wondering what was going on with her but she soon came out of the cabin looking like she was back to normal again as she groaned, are we getting a ship anytime soon? This boat's becoming too small to hold all my treasure. Yeah, I would like more space too, Zoro added from where he was sleeping against the mast. Yeah, we'll get a ship next, Luffy said deciding to deal with Nami's earlier behavior later. More crew members too, Nami added, we need supplies, recruit more people to handle the ship, we need to plan if we're heading to the Grand Line, you know. We can't just go there unprepared. Yes, we'll do all that, and more importantly, Zoro sat up and pointed at the sail of the boat, that has to go. Nami's face scrunched up in disgust as she too looked at the sail. Yeah. I want to burn this fucking thing. Hey, it's not that bad, Luffy whined as he looked at the sail too but if he was being completely honest with himself, even he couldn't deny that it was bad. What the three were talking about was the Jolly Roger that Luffy had painted on the sail of their boat a couple of weeks prior. They had been sailing for a while and sailing without a Jolly Roger seemed wrong to him, so he had quickly painted the Straw Hat Jolly Roger on the sail of their boat. And it was an atrocity. It vaguely resembled a skull, but rather than the skull of a human, it looked like the skull of an imaginary ugly creature that came straight out of eldritch horror with rows of disjointed teeth sticking out in every direction and an elongated skull that was deformed in various places. And the straw hat on top of its head looked like a piece of rock more than anything, so the Jolly Roger vaguely resembled the scene of a rock falling on the skull of an ugly uncanny creature. Leo had absolutely no experience in painting anything, so his memories did nothing to improve Luffy's artistic skill. If anything, it made it worse as he tried to imitate some really vague painting tricks he remembered from watching painting videos and the result turned out to be much more disastrous than that in the story. It's just a temporary placeholder, Luffy mumbled softly as the three kept staring at it. Once we get a proper ship, we'll get a proper Jolly Roger too. The sooner the better, Zoro said seriously. I refuse to sail under such an ugly flag. It gives me nightmares, Nami shuddered. How does one even mess up so bad in drawing a skull? I know, right? I thought he was purposefully making it bad, but turns out, he was seriously trying to make a Jolly Roger. My eyes burn every time I look at it. You can make a dog hold a paintbrush and it'll do a better job than this. Fine, goddammit. Luffy snapped as the two kept piling on the insults. Why don't you paint a better one then? No, I've suffered having had to lay my eyes upon this abomination. Nami sighed woefully. So others have to see it too and suffer with me. Come on, it's not that bad. You need better eyes then, Zoro rebuked. Fine, Luffy pouted, his shoulders slumping down. I know it looks bad. Just wait until we get a ship. Nami giggled seeing his pouty reaction and cheerfully sang, aye captain, as she set the course for the next island. We're running out of fruits Jack gave us, Nami sighed as she picked up an apple and threw it at Luffy before picking up an orange for herself from a small pile of fruits at the back of the boat. Luffy hummed, biting into the apple as he read a newspaper. They sure are delicious though. Jack's Beast Island had great food even though he didn't have meat. The Jack they were talking about was none other than Gaiman. Luffy had gone, hey look, it's Jack in a box. Hi Jack. When he first saw Gaiman and the name stuck, with even Nami and Zoro calling him that. Gaiman kept snapping, my name is not Jack, goddammit, which only made Luffy want to tease him more. That was the only island they had been to after leaving Orangetown and after helping Gaiman out with finding the treasure chests. They were currently en route to Gecko Islands, which Nami said they would reach in half a day more. Just as she said, half a day later, Luffy finally laid eyes on Gecko Islands and smiled when he could already see some bushes rustling on top of a small hill as they neared the shore. There should be a village up ahead here. It's pretty small though, Nami said, reading a map and getting out along with Zoro while Luffy anchored the boat. Ah, feels good to be on land again. Zoro stretched his legs and body while observing the surroundings. Luffy, on the other hand, was more focused on the four people that were hiding in the bushes on the hill. So what's up with them? Zoro asked pointedly, looking towards the hill, also having noticed them. The next instant, metal pellets were launched at Luffy's feet, who didn't bother to move. Soon, pirate flags started being erected all around the hill in sets of 3, before a long-nosed teen with medium-length curly black hair and prominent lips popped up out of the bushes, looking down at them proudly while holding a slingshot. He reminded Luffy of Yasopp immediately. Ahahaha. I'm the leader of the great pirate crew that has conquered this island, Usopp. He declared boldly, everyone praises me and calls me the great pirate captain Usopp. This island is under my protection and I have 80 million men under my command, so you better think twice about invading. Everyone looked at him unimpressed. Do you really think anyone would believe that there are 80 million people on this small island? Nami asked with a deadpan. Usopp freaked out. Oh no, she saw through me. Luffy paused, thinking about what Nami said. Is it even possible to have an army that big? What's the biggest army ever created in history? Nami tilted her head thinking about it. I think there was this war in South Blue that had about 1 million people on both sides a few decades ago, not sure though. Luffy hummed, thinking that Robin would know about it. Hey, stop ignoring me. Usopp yelled, looking offended. 80 million may have been an exaggeration, but I have plenty of strong men under me. Really? Zoro chimed in. Bring them out then. Sounds like a good exercise? Usopp started sweating seeing the ferocious look on Zoro's face, and at the same time, 6 flags started moving in tandem. More like 3 children, Nami said slyly. She saw us, the 3 veggie kids yelled before running away, leaving behind Usopp, who gaped at them with a shocked face. Hey, wait, where are you going? She, you're funny. You damn woman. Usopp cursed at Nami first before pointing at Luffy. And you? Don't laugh at me. I'm a man with high self-esteem and people even call me proud Captain Usopp. He then pointed his slingshot at them. My skill with the slingshot is even better than with a pistol, as you saw earlier. Leave now or I'll be forced to attack you. Oh, you're pointing a weapon at me? Luffy smirked as he discreetly removed his cuffs, before shadowing one eye with his hat and glaring at him with the other. Weapons are not just tools to scare people you know. He then made his voice very deep to sound downright demonic. If you point a weapon at someone, be ready to put your life on the line as one will be pointed right back at you. Gia. Usopp flinched before screaming loudly and turned his back to run away. His legs trembled violently though and he lost balance, collapsing to his knees. But fear overrode any other thoughts he had and he ran away towards the village at a really impressive speed while screaming his lungs out all the way. It's a demon. Luffy awkwardly watched him run away while Zoro and Nami were also shocked to hear his raw, gut-wrenching, extremely deep voice. They stared at him astounded. Zoro with a hand over his swords and Nami with the shock staff at the ready, not even registering that the long-nosed teen had run away. Realizing that he had gone overboard, Luffy sheepishly rubbed the back of his head, turned to Nami and said, "Ah, looks like I went a bit overboard, huh?" Still in his deep demonic voice, which made Nami jump in fright. But soon realizing that it was only his voice that had changed and that he was still that same idiotic, confusing pirate she felt rage boiling up in her. "Stop fucking using that voice," she roared, delivering a strong blow from her staff to his head at each word. "Oh, I'm still talking using demon voice, huh? Muhahahaha." He started laughing, seeing Nami's pissed off face, which further infuriated her and led to her beating him up. Zoro, who was watching all this with amusement, also laughed and Nami's rage was indiscriminate as he became her target next. "Stop laughing at me." "Hey, ow. Stop it. Man, you guys sure are funny. Muhahahaha. Will you stop it with the voice already?" Both roared at him, feeling their insides churn every time he talked. Okay, I stopped. Happy?" Luffy chuckled as he picked up his cuffs and put them back on. "Wait, that was your devil fruit power? An application of it, yeah? Voice-based devil fruit? Nope. Forget your stupid guessing game." Nami snapped, not at all interested. "Let's just go to the village. Who knows what kind of panic is ensuing there?" "What panic?" Luffy asked, wondering why panic would ensue, but a couple of minutes later, he understood when they arrived at the village. Usopp was shouting and begging everyone to run away and evacuate the village while the villagers were calling him a liar and telling him to stop doing such things every day. The three veggie kids who had run away earlier were also there, trying to convince the people that they were telling the truth. "It's really true this time. There's a demon pirate coming. We have to run away." "Oh, please shut that kid up, Usopp. We tolerate your lies every day, but you're going overboard today. This is the second time today." The three Straw Hats sweat dropped watching the scene unfold. "Well," Nami said, "I was expecting all the villagers to be panicking too, but they don't seem to believe him." "Yeah," Zoro agreed, "normally, people would start panicking and run away if one person spots a pirate and informs the rest of the village." "Well, let's clear up the misunderstanding," Luffy said as he cleared his throat loudly, getting everyone's attention. Usopp saw them and screamed again. "Ah! That's the demon I was telling you about. Run away." He tried pushing a couple of people, but they refused to move and just watched the three curiously. "Ah, you see," Luffy began normally but then suddenly smiled wide like the Grinch before dropping the cuffs and making his voice demonic again. "Muhahahaha. I've come to drink your blood and eat you, Sue." "Idiot." Nami grabbed his neck, choking him. "You call that clearing the misunderstanding?" "See, I told you," Usopp screamed, "it's the demon." "Ah. And it's the Onibaba," the three veggie kids screamed, pointing at Nami, who suddenly stopped choking Luffy and snapped her neck at the three. "What did you just say?" she growled angrily while Luffy and Zoro burst out laughing. Usopp got even more panicky, but he brought his slingshot out and aimed it at the three Straw Hats before yelling, "You all run away, I'll hurry." The three children immediately ran away screaming, but the villagers looked unimpressed at all of them. Usopp's knees were trembling violently. Sweat was pouring down his face, and his eyes were trembling and watery. But he still stood his ground regardless, as he really thought that Luffy was there to harm the village, and seeing that, Luffy smiled. "So you roped more people into your prank today, huh?" one villager said with a sigh. "This is getting out of hand." "I'm not lying this time," Usopp snapped, but no one believed him and looked at the three Straw Hats. "Ah, it was just a joke. Don't mind us." Luffy placated the villagers, nodded before going, "See? It's just another one of Usopp's pranks," and quickly dispersed. "No, he's tricking you. Run away now." Usopp screamed at them but froze when he found Luffy standing right in front of him. He just stood in place looking incredulously at him while Luffy studied him. "Your legs are locked up, huh?" Luffy chuckled as he lightly pushed him and he began to keel over. Luffy caught him before he could fall though and put him in a headlock before whispering mischievously, "Well, that was a lie. We're here to feast on all the humans." "Gyaa." Usopp tried to scream but Luffy clamped his mouth shut while grinning. "She will be the one who will be doing all the eating though," Zoro added, pointing at Nami with a straight face, earning him a smack on the head. "Geez, don't scare the poor guys so much," Nami sighed, shaking her head. "Well now, let's go eat," Luffy declared as he dragged a poor, pale-faced, squirming Usopp under his grip to the nearest restaurant while imitating Doflamingo's laugh which almost made Usopp faint. "So, you really were joking?" Usopp asked, half out of his seat, still thinking of running away, while Luffy kept a tight grip on his shirt. They had gone to a restaurant called Meshi, and Luffy had finally let him go, but when he tried to immediately run away, Luffy grabbed his shirt to keep him there while they ordered food and talked. "Yeah, you really don't think there are actual demons in the world, do you?" Zoro asked. "There are cannibals who call themselves demons and eat humans though," Usopp argued. "And what about that demonic Jolly Roger? And then the voice? Those things definitely point to you guys being in some demonic cult?" "Well," Nami giggled, "I won't argue on that point. The Jolly Roger does look demonic." "Pirate flags should strike fear in enemies," Zoro laughed, "guess it's working in a way." "It's just a temporary placeholder," Luffy snapped. "Wait, so you're really not here to hurt anyone?" "Nope, seriously. Seriously," Luffy said, and when it looked like he was still doubtful, added, "I was just messing with you. I heard about you from Yasopp." Usopp's eyes widened and he gaped at Luffy, all his doubts getting replaced with questions about his dad. "You know my dad?" "Sure do. He came to my island when I was a kid." "He did? What for?" "He was the sharpshooter on Shanks' pirate crew." "Really? On Shanks' crew? Wait a minute, you don't mean red-haired Shanks, do you?" "Yeah, the same. My dad was with such a famous pirate?" "He still is." "Whoa." Luffy then happily told him all about his father, from how he was the best sharpshooter he had ever seen to how much he talked about his son, and Usopp had a wide excited smile the whole time. Disregarding his own life and indulging himself in the vast and endless sea. "I'm so proud of my dad. He's gone on a real adventure on the seas." "Do you want to be like him too?" "Yes, going on an adventure facing mighty enemies. I want to be just like him." She good. "Well, I guess this makes things easier," Nami interjected. "Do you know anyone here who can help us get a ship?" "A ship? No, this is a small village as you can see. I don't think anyone here can help you, sorry," Usopp said, looking apologetic. "What about the mansion at the top of that hill?" Zoro asked as he pointed a thumb at a mansion that was visible through a window. Usopp suddenly stood up and raised his voice, "Don't go near there," surprising both Zoro and Nami. Instantly realizing that he had overreacted, Usopp awkwardly laughed before hastily saying, "Ah, I just remembered that I had to do something. The restaurant owner knows me, so order whatever you want. It's on me." He then ran away grabbing his bag. He sure was in a hurry. "Well, I'll focus on making him go bankrupt," Luffy said as he ordered more food, and Zoro gleefully joined in ordering more booze. "I honestly think that you can make a country go bankrupt seeing how much you eat sometimes," Nami sighed but also joined in, ordering both food and drinks. Luffy did eat a lot when he wanted to, but there were many times where he just skipped meals or ate very less, which made her think that he had very weird eating habits. A few minutes later, just as they were finishing, the three veggie kids walked in, shaking like a leaf as they stared at Luffy and slowly walked up to him. "Where's our captain?" "Ah, that was some good meat," Luffy said, patting his stomach. "Me meat? You can't mean," the three paled, backing away. Zoro smirked as he joined in, "Your captain, we gobbled him up." They pointed at Nami and screamed, "Ah, Onibaba." Again. "Why am I the Onibaba? Nami, who was giggling until then, snapped, causing the three kids to fall back. Luffy and Zoro lost it as they began laughing when Nami smacked them. "It's all your fault for being stupid." It took some time to calm the kids down, but once they learned that it was just a joke, they became friendly. Luffy asked them about where Usopp had gone to, and they began leading them to the mansion while telling them all about Kaya and how Usopp lies to her to make her feel better. So has Kaya gotten better after listening to his made-up stories? Nami asked once they were done. Yes, she has. Well, okay then, let's go. They soon reached the mansion and found 2 guards standing at the gate. They asked to be let in and were instantly turned down when the guards saw that the 3 Usopp pirates were with them. We told you, it's impossible to get in. Guards will be standing there most of the time, Onion said with a sigh. Hey, it's okay, we'll just break in, Luffy shrugged as he grabbed Zoro by the neck of his shirt. Wah! Zoro began confused but felt a sudden rush of wind before he found himself flying over the fence. He threw me. Luffy laughed as he looked at Nami next, who instantly showed him her fist. I'm not gonna throw you obviously, Luffy said as he scooped her up in a princess carry and told the 3 kids to grab onto him before jumping over the fence. That's good. Nami nodded happily as the 2 landed on the other side along with the kids, and as soon as Luffy let her go, Zoro grabbed him by his vest. Don't throw people, ya bastard. She you're so durable though, don't describe a person as durable either. She. Hello? Are you all alright? A sweet voice interrupted their argument and the 3 Straw Hats looked up at the second-story window to find a pale-skinned blonde girl looking at them curiously while Usopp was sitting across from her on a tree branch. Ah, it's okay, Kaya. These guys heard of my reputation and have traveled afar to come join the Usopp pirates. Nope. Luffy denied it before turning to Kaya. Hi, I'm Luffy. Nice to meet ya. This is Zoro and Nami. Ah yes, hello, I'm Kaya. We wanted to talk Busine. He didn't get in any more words before Kuro showed up yelling, what is going on here? Ah Clahador, Kaya said a bit flustered, you see, these people. I'll hear your excuses later, Miss Kaya. For now, you all must leave immediately. Or do you have some business here? Yep. I want a ship, I can't help you, came his instant response. Good thing I wasn't asking you then, came Luffy's instant retort, which surprised Kuro. Before Luffy turned to Kaya. I heard you have a ship. I want her. Oh, you mean the Go? Kaya began but was again cut off. Do you hear me? You won't get any help here. Leave the premises at once. Luffy ignored him, and seeing that, Kuro turned his attention to Usopp, who was trying to silently sneak away. You're Usopp, aren't you? I've heard about you from the villagers. Kuro started taunting Usopp, calling him out on all his lies and how he was abandoned by his father. Kaya was getting flustered as she kept trying to defuse the situation by making Kuro stop. But no matter how much she tried to speak up, he just straight up ignored her and continued insulting Usopp. Zoro and Nami could also clearly see what Kuro was doing and were watching impassively while Luffy was honestly bored. Watching someone as uncool as Kuro insulting someone as amazing as Yasop didn't make him the least bit angry, and it was at the most boring to hear him talk. You are the son of a worthless, Kuro was saying, enjoying himself internally, when Luffy decided to cut in. He put a hand on a very furious Usopp who was just about to punch Kuro. Hey, calm down. This idiot is running his mouth talking bad about Yasop when he hasn't even met him. I have, and I can honestly say he's one of the greatest people I've known. That's right. I'm proud of my father. He's a brave warrior of the sea. I'm proud to be the son of a pirate. Kuro sent an annoyed glare at Luffy for ruining the moment. Huh? Who even are you? His father is a GR. He again started intending to insult Luffy too, but Luffy rolled his eyes at him before turning to Kaya. Hey Kaya, can we talk business? We want to buy the ship? Kaya was startled by the sudden non-sequitur but was also very happy that someone had cut in and stopped the deteriorating situation. She was about to nod and let them in when Kuro cut in again. We don't have a ship. Leave. But Luffy didn't even look in his direction and stared directly at Kaya, not moving an inch. Did you not hear me? I said leave the premises right now, and take this worthless pirate son with you? Usopp was about to lunge at him, but Luffy grabbed his shoulder, stopping him as he continued to stare at Kaya. Can you help? Kuro continued to mouth off while Kaya just stared back at Luffy and understood what he was conveying. I'll not leave until you say so. Zoro and Nami also caught on to what Luffy was doing and faced away from Kuro, staring up at Kaya too. Kuro was still screaming his head off, asking them to leave and insulting them too. But as the three continued to ignore him, Kaya also completely calmed down, not listening to him. Should we leave, Kaya? Nami asked, and Kaya understood the message. You're the owner of this house. You're the one in charge. not Klahadore. She shook her head and composed herself. They were guests who had come to see her to talk business, and she was showing this shameful display to them. Klahadore, she said, but he again dismissed her, saying, I'll deal with these trespassers, I'll hear you later. Klahadore, she said again, putting a bit more strength into her voice, but it was still calm and even. Kuro finally stopped shouting, sensing the change too, and looked at her. You should take rest, Miss Kaya. Alta, Klahadore, Kaya cut him off, calling my friend worthless and insulting guests who have come to talk business. You've gone too far this time, you may leave now. I'll entertain my guests here. But miss, you may leave now, she reiterated with a bit of an edge to her voice. She was angry at Klahadore for insulting Usopp so much, and that unconsciously seeped into her voice. Kuro gaped at her, looking shocked. He had been with Kaya for 3 years, and in all those years, he had never seen Kaya get angry at him or reprimand him. Sure, she would throw a tantrum whenever he dismissed Usopp, but a few sweet words would always make her submit. But now, she was angry at him, she was cutting him off, and she was dismissing him. He tried one last time and concentrated on Usopp, as he was the easiest target, but as he turned his head to insult Usopp again, Kaya quickly cut in and addressed the 3 strangers. You can come in. I'll have someone else arrange some tea for you. And Kuro knew he had lost. She was ignoring him too now. He slowly bowed, gritting his teeth in annoyance and anger, and looked at the Straw Hat bastard who had changed the situation so easily, but he wasn't even looking at him. He silently vowed to make sure that he would take revenge on the Straw Hat bastard, the long-nosed idiot, and also vowed that Kaya would die extra painfully before leaving the premises. Luffy and the others were brought into a spacious dining room and were served some tea by a butler while Kaya dressed up a bit. Usopp was also there and was sipping tea with them while his mind was going through everything that had happened earlier. He stared at Luffy, who was joking around with Zoro while Nami was yelling at them to act civilized, and before he could think, he heard himself asking, how did you do it? Do what? Before with Kaya and Klahadore, I've been trying to get her to stand up for herself for so long, and you just come up here and stare at her, and that somehow gives her courage. How did you do that? It was nothing special, Luffy shrugged, I just ignored him, that's all. That makes no sense. Kaya entered just then, and she did hear Usopp's question, which made her feel bad. She herself didn't know why she had suddenly snapped at her butler, so she didn't have an answer for that either. It was awkward between the two as Kaya smiled at everyone and took a seat at the table. Thank you for inviting us in, Nami began in a very formal manner. Ah yes. I apologize for the shameful display earlier. Ah no, it's no matter. Luffy rolled his eyes at the excessively formal speech both girls were using and jumped straight to the point. I want a ship. Nami pinched his waist under the table and directed a glare at him. There's a way to handle these conversations, idiot. She hissed. And don't you see the awkward atmosphere here? Kaya and Usopp shifted uncomfortably hearing her. Sorry, it's my fault, Kaya said apologetically. I heard the question Usopp asked, and to be honest, I don't know why I did that either. Ah, I didn't mean anything by that, Usopp said, flustered, feeling bad. It's okay, it is true after all, I don't know. I wanted to defuse the situation, and when you all just kept looking for my confirmation, I just calmed down too, and felt like you were saying that I was in charge here, and that made me just snap, I guess. Zoro, who had picked up booze and was downing it, spoke up then. It's probably Luffy. He does stuff like this a lot, so don't break your head over it. Yeah, Nami agreed. There was this wimpy kid we met a few weeks ago, and he was too scared to even look me in the eye in the beginning. This idiot, she said, pinching Luffy's cheeks, spent like half a day with him, and that same wimpy kid was raising his voice against a marine captain 5 times his size who was about to kill everyone and pretty much started a rebellion. I see, Kaya nodded, looking at Luffy for any sort of answer. Luffy was silently eating crackers while they talked, and when things quieted down, he looked up and found that everyone was looking at him. I want a ship, he said again, ignoring everything else. He also likes to pretend that he doesn't know he's capable of such things, Nami said, looking peeved. Fine, Luffy sighed before analyzing the situation. With you, he pointed at Usopp, Kaya's having to choose between 2 people she cares about who hate each other. That's pretty much a nightmarish scenario, as no matter what choice she makes, it'll end up hurting someone, as both are right in their own way. In our case just now, she had to choose between guests who had come to talk business and her butler who was showing a shameful display to said guests. He was clearly in the wrong, so it's an obvious choice to take our side. Subconsciously too, she knows that Ku the butler will also realize that it was his fault, reprimanded him, and even apologize later and reconcile very easily, that's all. Wow, okay, when you put it like that, yeah, it makes perfect sense, Kaya said, nodding her head slowly. Yeah, makes sense, Usopp nodded sagely as if he knew all along. But things were still too awkward between them. And seeing that, Luffy opened his mouth again. If anything, it shows that Kaya likes you a lot and wants to spend time with you even when another person close to her doesn't want her to. And you basically just got jealous and want to spend more time with her too. It shows that you like her a lot too. It's perfectly normal boyfriend-girlfriend behavior, don't worry about it. Both instantly blushed heavily and Luffy grinned knowing he had broken the ice before he went back to eating. What are you saying? We're not like tea that? Usopp stuttered while Kaya was too heavily blushing not able to mumble even a single word. They looked at each other and instantly looked away with matching blushes, which only caused Luffy to chuckle. That was actually really impressive, Nami said looking impressed while Zoro chuckled already expecting something similar. You a psychiatrist or something? Zoro asked. Nah, Leo taught me a bit of psychology. Leo? My brother? You have a brother? Nami said surprised. Yeah, Luffy said before looking at Kaya and Usopp who were still blushing. Anyway, can we talk about the ship now please? Yes. Kaya latched onto it. Wanting to move on from the previous topic, we do have a ship that we barely use. Mary has designed the ship, so I think it'll be better if we hear his opinion. She soon called for him and a sheep-like butler with horns entered the room. Yes, Miss Kaya. These people want to buy a ship and I wondered whether you would be willing to sell the ship you designed to them. It is currently just sitting with no one using it after all. Mary looked surprised as he studied each member of the table when Luffy waved at him. Yo, I'm Luffy, future Pirate King. I'll take good care of her. Pirate King? Everyone who didn't know gasped while Mary was more surprised by what Luffy said after that. Her? Yes, Luffy nodded resolutely. Mary already liked that Luffy treated the ship as more than a vessel and smiled. As a shipwright, he was sad that the Going Merry wasn't being used for what it was designed for, and finding someone who was ambitious and also had the right mindset on how to treat a ship. He couldn't have asked for more. Well, I'm not opposed to selling the ship. It's been barely used as Miss Kaya said. I'll have the ship cleaned up today, so you can come by tomorrow. I'll give you a tour and you can decide if you want to buy her. Luffy sighed internally but agreed. He wanted to meet Mary badly and that's why he had stopped Usopp from punching Kuro and was talking to Kaya, but guess he had to wait. Well, that was easy, Nami commented before looking at Luffy, and how will you pay for the ship? I hope you're not thinking of using the money I have, right? You did say I had to give it only for food expenses if I remember correctly. Don't worry, I have enough, he placated. I got 200 million lying in the boat. That actually made him wonder how Nami hadn't found it yet. It was inside the cabin even when Makino was with them. And Nami had slept inside every night. Had she not snooped around at all? Mystery to solve for another day. He thought as he got up and said he had to go to the restroom before slipping out. But he actually went looking for Kuro's room. He was 3 weeks early when he had met Zoro, and Clockwork Island, Eldorago, Ganzak and many other events had taken place to fill that gap. At Orange Island, he felt that they had arrived earlier than what had happened in the story, but didn't know by how many days. But now, he could confirm it if he knew when Kuro was planning the attack. He hoped to God that it was the next day itself, as staying in such a peaceful village for more than necessary made him want to blow his brains out. There weren't many people in the house, so it didn't take him long to find a door marked Klahadore. He didn't sense anyone inside, so slipped in and found himself in a small tidy room. He looked around trying to find any indicator of when the attack would take place, and he didn't have to look for long as there was a date circled on a calendar out in the open. The circled date was just 2 days away with 3 years written next to it. And that triggered a memory of a scene from the story where Mary gifts Kuro something as an anniversary present which Kuro smashes before attacking him. Okay, they'll attack the day after tomorrow in the morning, so just 1 extra day, he sighed in relief. Getting what he wanted, he went back to the dining room. It's your fault. You made things so awkward by saying that. Usopp whined as the three and soon-to-be fourth Straw Hat walked towards Usopp's house after leaving Kaya's mansion. They had talked normally, but Luffy's words still seemed to be at the back of their minds and things remained a bit awkward. At the end, Kaya said, "You'll come by tomorrow at the usual time, right, Usopp?" To which Usopp responded with, "Of course, I'll be there." But both were blushing when they saw Luffy standing to the side grinning at them. "Ah, another shot?" Zoro asked unsure. See, I'm not the only one who says, it's your fault." Nami smiled slyly at Luffy, "You're the problem, not me." Yeah, Luffy smiled rolling his eyes playfully. "What's this about?" Usopp asked lost on what they were talking about. "Oh, it's an inside joke. You'll learn it in a whole lot more soon enough," Luffy grinned. "And as to making things awkward, it's better this way rather than holding negative feelings towards each other, right?" Usopp sighed. "Well, I guess so, yeah, still, that damn butler is the one responsible, making fun of my dad and trampling all over his name. I wanted to punch him so bad." Luffy just shrugged, putting his arms behind his head as he walked. "We're pirates, you know. Apart from a few who've actually met us or know about us, the rest of the world will always call us evil and worthless and whatnot. So, people like that butler are pretty common, and they're not wrong for the most part either. Good pirates are very few in the world." "I agree," Nami agreed looking serious. "I have a really bad impression of pirates too. There's only one pirate I know of that's good." She turned to Luffy, "And that's you. You're a good pirate too," Luffy said softly, and Nami opened her mouth to retort, but couldn't. She was technically in 2 pirate crews currently. One she hated with all her being and couldn't wait to get out of, and the other had become something she wholeheartedly loved and wanted to be a part of. "No, stop thinking, she berated herself until her mind went blank. Never thought of it like that. Usopp pondered with a hand on his chin. "Still, you have to fight for your honor when someone tramples on it like that butler, right? Real pirates wouldn't just let it go if someone makes fun of them, especially, not the great pirate Captain Usopp." Sure. Luffy didn't argue. He still had a childish and immature view of pirates, just like his 7-year-old self who picked a fight with Higuma, and he would have to grow and mature himself. "Anyway, you're good at building stuff, right? I want something built. Can you do it?" Yes. I am also known as the Great Inventor too. What did you have in mind?" Luffy smiled. He had been waiting to get a wingsuit or a glider made ever since he had been lost and airwalked over the calm belt all those months ago. "Do you know the physics behind flight?" After Luffy explained how a glider worked, as much as he could anyways, to Usopp, he and Zoro started sparring right outside his house. Usopp was outside too at a workbench cutting wood and building what Luffy requested, while Nami was also to the side occasionally watching the 2 men fight. Zoro panted hard as he tried to get just a single hit on Luffy, but it was as if he knew all his attack patterns. Especially today, there was something different in the way Luffy dodged all his attacks. He had improved tremendously by his daily spars with Luffy, and his speed and techniques had improved a lot, but it was still nowhere near Luffy's level. No matter how fast he was, Luffy was faster. Even when he performed feints and switched attacks at the last moment, Luffy would be 1 step ahead and react to it. And today, Luffy was taking it 1 step further by somehow dodging or deflecting attacks before he even made them. It couldn't be that he was memorizing attack patterns either, as he was mixing it up, so it baffled Zoro. "It's not just speed, there's something more today," Zoro realized as he tried to analyze just how exactly Luffy was predicting his attacks. He held 2 swords in front of him, making a downward V before lunging at Luffy with both swords diverging outward. Luffy stepped back and raised his hand in front of him, and Zoro then changed 1 sword slash into a thrust which Luffy deflected. His arm was already up before I even began to switch the attack. Finally realizing it, Luffy smiled as Zoro paused, trying to think. "So there is something more going on here. You're somehow predicting my attacks before I even do it. You're still thinking about it before you do it though. You're reading my thoughts? In a way. It's time you learn about hockey." "Hockey? Yeah. You guys pay attention too," Luffy said to Nami and Usopp, and surprisingly, Nami was already focusing on them. She instantly stopped drawing her charts and came closer to them, while Usopp watched while still working, giving the reason that, "You guys are monsters, you know. I'll stay as far away as possible so that I don't get roped into it." Luffy shrugged as he brought a piece of black cloth and started blindfolding himself. "You're gonna fight with a blindfold on?" Nami asked surprised. "Yup. Zoro, attack me." Seriously, Zoro didn't hesitate for a moment and attacked him without holding back even a bit, and just as he expected, Luffy dodged all his attacks with the slightest of margins. Haki is a dormant power that's present in all living beings. Luffy began even while Zoro kept attacking and he kept dodging, but most people never notice it or ever awaken it. It can be described by lots of names: presence, willpower, ambition, spiritual energy. "So you're sensing my presence right now?" Zoro asked as he kept up the attacks, hoping to understand what Luffy was talking about. "Yeah, I can sense your presence, your intent. You think of attacking before you actually do it, and that's what I'm picking up on." "How?" Zoro breathed, becoming excited at the prospect of learning something new and strong. "There are 3 types of haki," Luffy continued. "First is observation haki. It's what I'm doing right now. It's a sort of sixth sense that lets me perceive the world around me. I can sense your strength, your intents, and kinda see your aura. It can also be described as voices. It's hard to explain. You'll understand once you feel it on your own." "Wait," Usopp looked at the serious looks on Zoro's and Nami's faces. "You're not actually thinking this is true, right? Something like that can't be real. He's just making up stuff, and I know I'm a master storyteller after all." "Well," Luffy grinned, turning his back to him, "attack me with your slingshot then." "Are you sure? My skills with the slingshot are no joke. You'll get hurt." "Yeah, go ahead." "Well, don't cry later that I didn't warn you." Usopp proudly brought his slingshot out and shot a metal pellet right at his head. Luffy only tilted his head slightly and it whizzed past him. Usopp gaped for a second before he shot another one, which he dodged with minimal movement again. "Come on, try harder." Usopp took it as a challenge and started firing in quick succession, and Luffy dodged it all without taking a step away from where he stood with his back to them. Zoro also attacked him suddenly while being completely silent, which he sensed and dodged. "Unbelievable," Usopp muttered after a few minutes of unsuccessful hits. "So that was observation. Second type is armament haki," Luffy continued as he removed his blindfold and went to stand in front of a tree. "You can coat your body with haki to act like armor and also increase the force of your attacks. Watch. This is a normal punch," Luffy said as he punched the tree in front of him and only a small dent formed on the bark. "Now, the same punch with the same strength, but I'll coat my fists with armament haki." He again punched the tree and a deep hole that almost went 1/3 of the way in was drilled into the bark and cracks formed. Of course, you can coat it on swords too. There are way more things you can do with haki which you'll learn along the way, and if you want to be the strongest of anything, haki is as necessary as breathing. "How do I awaken it?" Zoro asked hastily, wanting the power for himself. "Well, haki is a mysterious power. There are some who are born with it and don't have to train to unlock it. Some train for years and don't unlock it. Some unlock it during really stressful or intense situations too. The way I learned it was," he grinned, "get hit. A lot." "Get hit?" "Yeah, put a blindfold on yourself and make someone whack you with a stick. For observation, you need to focus on sensing the stick coming at you and dodge it. For armament, you need to focus on channeling your haki to coat your body parts to protect yourself." "I see," Zoro nodded, knowing it wasn't going to be easy. "Well, the best way is of course life or death battles. I didn't have anyone to whack me with a stick, so I just blindfolded myself and jumped into the middle of wolf packs and other beasts to train myself. A few weeks of being treated like a rag doll and I unlocked it." Nami and Usopp went pale imagining Luffy being clawed at by normal wolves. But Luffy was talking about 5 to 7 meter tall wolves and even bigger beasts. "I'm still not good at armament though, so I need way more training too." "That's being not good," Usopp exclaimed with shock, pointing at the tree. "Yeah, one can get way more powerful. What's the third type?" Zoro asked, not caring about him. "Well, let's skip that for now. I'll show you some other time. Now, who wants to train?" Luffy said, holding out the piece of cloth, and, of course, only Zoro was up for it. "Ahahaha." Usopp laughed awkwardly. "I have to finish building the thing you asked me for, so I'll pass. Besides, I'm already really strong, so I have no need for this, ahaha." Luffy nodded, knowing he was still childish in his idea about pirates and that wouldn't change for a while, so he wouldn't focus on getting stronger himself anytime soon. Mentally, Luffy was in Wano, knowing how strong the opponents would eventually get and how much stronger they would all have to grow. But the rest weren't. Other than Zoro, who always had a drive to get stronger, and Sanji, who would most probably want to compete with Zoro and get stronger too. Luffy didn't think anyone else would take training from him. He didn't mind it one bit though. They all had different fighting styles, so he would just have to find different ways to help them grow stronger as the journey continued. Luffy then turned to Nami, who had been unnaturally quiet the whole time. "Where exactly did you learn all this?" Nami asked when she noticed Luffy staring at her. "This and the Rokushiki too. You said you saw Marines performing those techniques, but I've never once seen anyone do what you do. And I've traveled a lot over the years." "Well, not Marines in East Blue. I meant the higher level Marines in the Grand Line." "You're from the Grand Line?" Usopp gasped loudly while Nami and Zoro already seemed to have guessed it and nodded in affirmation. "I was there for a bit, yeah, oh my god. Someone from that sea is here?" Usopp as he stared at Luffy with a bit of reverence. "Is it really true? That it's filled with horrors?" Well, for me, it's the most beautiful place in the world." "What? I heard that there are Mons. Alright, I want to train now," Zoro interrupted, causing Usopp to stare at him in bewilderment. "You don't want to hear about that place? Not really. We'll be going there soon anyway," Zoro said nonchalantly as he took the blindfold that Luffy held out to him and started tying it around his eyes. "If you want to know, you need to go there and see for yourself." Luffy grinned and shut down any more questions as he grabbed a stick. "Me? Go to the Grand Line? Impossible. Impossible?" Usopp thought to himself before wincing when he saw Luffy whacking Zoro in the head. Ouch. Meanwhile, Nami was lost in thought as she watched the two blockheads. "So he is from the Grand Line too, could he?" "No, stop thinking. That bastard is from the Grand Line too and he's a fish man. Don't pull others into your problems." Nami berated herself and stopped herself from thinking about it anymore. She couldn't help but wonder if Luffy could defeat Arlong whenever she saw him doing impossible things casually. The idea that Luffy would help her in a heartbeat with no hesitation was pretty clear to her, but would he actually be able to defeat Arlong? The scenes of Arlong literally spearing marine battleships with his nose and all the times she had failed in killing him passed through her mind, and she squashed any ideas she was getting about Luffy defeating him. Fishmen are stronger than humans. No human can defeat a fishman. She chided herself and stopped thinking about it. She almost had 100 million anyway, so defeating him wasn't even needed. She went back to the boat to draw some charts. Usopp went back to his house to build the glider, while the other two spent the entire day training, by the end of which, Zoro's head was filled with bumps. The next morning, Nami and Usopp were still asleep, but Luffy and Zoro were again sparring as Zoro was more motivated than ever to grow stronger. As they trained, it suddenly occurred to Luffy that he should focus on making Zoro learn how to cut steel first. Cutting steel was the next step to evolve his skills, so he thought he should push him towards that direction. "Hey, Zoro. Your sensei should have told you about the concept of cutting nothing, right?" he asked when there was a pause in the fight. Zoro's eyes widened as he blankly nodded. "Listen, Zoro, in this world we live in, there are swordsmen who can cut nothing." "Yes, he did tell me about it. But what does that even mean, to cut nothing?" Everything in this world has a breath of its own. The trees, rocks, leaves, everything. You'll feel their presence and it feels like it's almost breathing. It's hard to explain to people, but once you experience it yourself, it'll just click. That breath is what you should be concentrating on. Try to feel it, try to concentrate on it, meditate and focus on everything around you, expanding your senses. When you feel that breath, that's when you'll be able to truly understand what exactly cutting nothing means. Zoro quietly listened to his words, processing them. A breath, huh? That makes absolutely no sense. "Well, okay," Zoro said, pondering over it as they continued sparring. Oh, Luffy had a day to kill before the battle, so he wondered what he should do. He thought back on his adventure and decided on training the voice of all things. He pretty much meditated every day for at least 4 hours, concentrating on his observation, conquerors and the voice of all things at the same time, but today, he wanted to completely focus on the voice. After a quick breakfast with everyone, he first found a local cat and then sat under a tree with the cat napping in his lap. He then closed his eyes and started meditating. He remembered the feeling he got when he talked to Roxanne, the Sea King he had befriended in the Calm Belt, and focused on it. It wasn't long before he felt the familiar fuzzy hearing he usually heard when he tried to hear sea kings, and he turned his focus on the cat napping in his lap, hoping to hear it. He was doing this because he was sure that he had understood Chow Chow back in Orangetown, and that led him to wondering if he could talk to animals. It was shown that only beasts with high-level intellect like sea kings and Zunesha could be heard using the power, but many animals in this world had high-level intellect too. Karoo could understand humans, even though it was a bit dumb. Chopper could talk to a wide array of animals, and they seemed to be smart too, particularly the wolves on Skypia came to mind. Mermaids could talk to fish. There were birds that delivered newspapers all throughout the world. Morgan's devil fruit maybe played into it, but the news coos could actually show a wide array of emotions like being pissed when people don't pay, shrug when people complained about prices, and cheer when it made a good sale. Then there was Criminal, the worldwide fashion label that was created by Poppig, the starfish, Cammy's pet and teacher. He was a starfish that had learned the human tongue because in his childhood, he thought that he was a human, and by the time he realized that he was a starfish, he had already learned the human tongue. However, that worked. And that starfish had created the biggest fashion luxury brand in the world that charged outrageous prices. He didn't remember it from the story but had actually heard it from Reiju. She actually used a lot of Criminal products and also another brand called Doskoi Panda, and those two were apparently the biggest luxury brands in the world. She had clothes and purses from those brands, and she had even bought Luffy some of those luxury clothes, which he had lost when he was stuck in the calm belt. Stop, I'm going on a tangent. Let's get back to the voice of all things. Bottom line was that animals had a high level of intellect in this world too, and he thought that he should be able to hear them too if he tried hard enough. Not all of them probably, but the smarter ones at least. Or animals with high EQ, he added when he remembered Chow Chow. The dog was repaying a favor and was happy that Luffy had protected his treasure, so maybe that emotional bond made Luffy understand him. He wouldn't know if he didn't try, so began focusing on the cat and lost himself in meditation. That looks heavenly. Nami's eyes shined as she saw a cat curled up on Luffy's lap as he slept leaning against a tree, while a few more cats were also arriving and climbing into his lap. They're so cute. Well, I wanted to train, but Zoro began, but Nami cut him off. Don't you dare. The cats are sleeping so peacefully. Don't disturb them. Yeah, besides, I guess Luffy needs some sleep too. Have you ever seen him sleep for long? He's still awake late into the night when I go to sleep, and when morning comes, he's already awake before me. He pretty much takes up all the night watches. Yeah, I asked him. He said he usually can't sleep for long periods and just takes a few power naps. Nami sighed. He has a messed up sleep cycle too, need to fix that. Well, you do that. I'll go train, Zoro said and walked off, leaving Nami alone. She slowly walked towards Luffy and the cats, not wanting to startle them, but they were pretty much relaxed as they slept on and around Luffy. 3 cats had now curled up in Luffy's lap with a couple more around him, and she slowly sat next to him to pet them. She scooped one up to put it on her lap, but it immediately went back to Luffy, causing her to huff irritably. She soon leaned down to pet them and giggled when she felt the soft purring. So cute. After some time where Luffy heard absolutely nothing, he suddenly felt someone shaking him forcibly, which made him open his eyes. He had started meditating right after breakfast in the morning, and it was already late evening with the soft orange glow of the setting. Suzoro was next to him, shaking him awake, and on his lap 3 cats were curled up together sleeping, and more surprisingly, Nami's head was resting on his lap. She was curled up right in front of him with her body facing him and the most peaceful smile he had ever seen on her face. She seemed to have lied down in front of him to play with the cats as one of her hands was resting gently on them, and had dozed off at some point with her head in his lap. There were 2 more cats that were peacefully sleeping in the crevice that Luffy's legs and Nami's body created. Luffy then looked up to see that a small crowd of villagers were also standing around and looking at them, smiling and murmuring. Such a cute couple. They look so peaceful. Someone needs to draw this scene. I did, cats. Did I really spend the whole day meditating? Luffy whispered with a sigh, realizing he had missed meeting Mary. Meditating? Zoro teased. I thought you two were out on a date and were sleeping here. Yeah. Luffy rolled his eyes before looking down at Nami. He gently shook her and she mumbled incomprehensibly before burying her face in the cat's more and smiled, feeling the soft fur. Luffy shifted his gaze back at Zoro. I feel like she'll kill me if I wake her up now. Zoro softly chuckled. Well, I would have left you too, but there's a situation. Luffy looked around and not finding Usopp, nodded understanding what probably happened. He shook Nami again with a bit more force and she groaned as she slowly opened her eyes. She blinked a few times, saw the cats right in front of her face, turned slightly up to see Luffy's face and suddenly sat up blushing. Oh no, I dozed off. Her suddenly sitting up, of course, disturbed the cats that were sleeping in between them and they meowed loudly in protest, which woke up the other cats too. Ah no, sorry, Nami said apologetically, but they all meowed yawning and stretching as they got up, which made everyone watching go, ah, before they licked Luffy's face as if thanking him and soon jumped off. So I attract animals to me too? No, probably just cats being cats. The mission of hearing animals had failed and he decided to ponder on his power later, but he was happy as he had caught a cat burglar sleeping on him. Had a good sleep? Luffy smirked at Nami, who was blushing. That was one of the best naps of my life, Nami thought internally, but externally, she scowled, grabbing Luffy by the neck of his vest. Not a word. Ever. Got that? Oh come on, we just slept together, it's no big duh. Don't word it like that, she snapped. I slept on you. That sounds bad too. She. Don't laugh. Zoro cleared his throat, getting their attention. If you two are done flirting, there's something important to talk about. I'm not flirting. Sure, I believe you. Smack, let's go. It didn't take long for them to reach Usopp's house, and as Luffy expected, he had a bandaged shoulder and looked like the whole world had ended. Oh god, what happened to you? Nami asked. He got shot at Kaya's place, Zoro said as they all sat around in a circle. Really? Kaya did that? No. Usopp hastily defended her. It's not her fault really, it's mine. I always keep lying, so, of course, this would happen. I should have realized it by what happened yesterday when I told the villagers about you guys and no one believed me. Can you just tell us what happened? Nami sighed. He isn't telling me either. He made a lot of ruckus in the afternoon yelling that pirates were gonna attack at dawn tomorrow, and was chased around by a mob. He then went to the mansion and came back with a bullet wound. You guys won't believe me either. You'll just think I'm a liar like everyone else too, so what's the point? Well, I know the attack is real, Luffy said nonchalantly. I saw it marked on Kuro's calendar. Rig, you know about Kuro? Yeah, I was going to tell you but ended up sleeping through the day, oops. You bastard, why didn't you tell me earlier? If you were there, we could have convinced everyone. Really, they would have just thought that you had roped another person into your prank. That's what happened yesterday too. Usopp froze, thinking back, and hung his head again with a sigh. Well, yeah. Okay, so what's going on? Zoro asked, not following. Kuro, isn't that a pirate? Nami recalled. He was killed a few years ago, I think. No, that damn Klahadore is Kuro. I saw him making a plan to. He then narrated what all he had seen. He had apparently gone to see Kaya like usual, and she told him that Klahadore had apologized to her for going too far. She was also a bit pushy in making Usopp talk and forgive Klahadore too. But Usopp still held a grudge against him and soon left feeling uncomfortable. He went to the cliff he usually visited to think, and things turned out like in the story when he witnessed Kuro and Django making plans. And how do you know? Nami asked pointedly, looking at Luffy. I recognized him, broke into his room back at the mansion, found that he was gonna attack tomorrow. I was gonna tell you today, but you know. You dozed off. I wanted to prevent that whole unpleasantness. Oh well, Luffy shrugged, moving on. Well then, what do you want to do now? He asked Usopp. They all think I'm a liar and that tomorrow will be a peaceful, boring day like always, so, I'll make that happen. Even though I got shot and they chased me away with brooms. This is still my home, I love everyone here. So, I'll protect them. Luffy smiled, seeing the burning determination in his eyes even though his legs were shaking, and nodded. We'll help you. Zoro smiled too as he looked approvingly at Usopp. You've got a good heart. You even lied to those kids so that they wouldn't be in danger. This is actually great. I can steal from those pirates now after we take them out, Nami added. Huh? You're willing to fight beside me? Usopp asked, bewildered. Why? You look scared. You're outnumbered, came the blunt answers. Me? Scared. So what if they outnumber me? I'll be fine? I'm the great Captain Usopp. brave warrior of the sea after all. I can take them all with my 80 million strong army. The three looked down blankly at his legs that were shaking uncontrollably, and Usopp snapped, hitting his legs in frustration. What are you looking at? It's Captain Kuro and his crew, of course. I'm scared, I don't need your pity, so leave. We're not pitying you. You said that you want to fight to protect your home, and as long there's at least one person willing to fight, Zoro said with a smile. We'll be there to help. Nami finished, also with a smile, before giving a sideways glance at Luffy. Right, Captain? Luffy's lips curled up wider than usual. Yep. You guys. Usopp looked at them with thankful teary eyes for a few moments before he wiped his tears away and faced them resolutely. Okay, we don't have much time. We have to set up traps. They were standing atop a hill where Usopp had just explained how he wanted to pour oil over the slope and then attack the pirates while they were slipping and sliding. Well, it sounds easy, but it'll depend on our strength as we'll be fighting a small army, so what can you guys do? I shock people. And steal, of course. I cut people. I just goof around. Wait. What do you mean you goof around? And what do you mean you shock people? You'll see, Luffy said before bringing up another point. Why do you say this is the only shore for the pirates to come in from? We literally docked at another shore. Usopp blinked for a few seconds before panicking. That's right. There's another shore in the north. I assumed they would be coming from here since they docked here. But they can come from the north shore too. What will we do now? We just have to split up, Zoro answered calmly. I'm taking the north shore, Nami said instantly. Our boat is also there with all my treasure in it, need to hide it. Okay, then Zoro agreed. I'll go to Kaya's place then, Luffy said, and the other two nodded before they started to walk in respective directions. Wait, what are you saying? Usopp panicked. We're already outnumbered, we can't afford to split up. It's fine, don't worry, Nami said as she grabbed Usopp. You're coming with me. I need a scapegoat in case something goes wrong. What? Usopp screamed as Nami dragged him along with her to the other shore while Zoro just sat at the shore they were already at, and Luffy went to Kaya's mansion. Luffy soon reached the mansion and climbed up to the roof to wait. He sat there staring at the night sky, feeling much more happier than usual as the earlier comment Nami made had left him elated. It was obvious that she considered herself to be a part of the crew, but she still blanked out sometimes when he was sparring with Zoro or fighting others, and it was easy to figure out what was going through her head. He sighed knowing that she had kind of vowed to herself that she wasn't going to ask for help in dealing with Arlong, but he wasn't about to let her suffer like in the story and decided to confront her soon. What is it with you idiots? Why did we all split up? Usopp yelled for the millionth time as he poured oil over the slope on the north shore. Will you stop complaining already? It'll work out? We didn't even talk. What will happen if those pirates come here? We need to signal those two to come here, right? How will we do that? Nami pulled out a transponder snail and showed it to him. I'll just call them. Oh, Usopp blinked dumbly. The transponder snail was something Luffy had bought for her and Zoro pretty much the day after they met. Luffy seemed to have a weird obsession with transponder snails and people not carrying them everywhere. I just don't get why everyone doesn't carry one everywhere they go. What if some emergency occurred and I wanted to reach you, huh? I get these are useless pieces of junk for long distances, but they're still useful for short distances. God. I hate this world sometimes for not having phones. Nami giggled, remembering the very long rant he had gone about this topic before forcibly handing her and Zoro each a transponder snail, and was adamant that they carry it around everywhere. He said some really strange things sometimes which made no sense. Anyway, Nami came out of her thoughts just as Usopp finished pouring the last barrel of oil over the slope. This looks good. Let's just hope we don't slip and fall for this trap ourselves. Haha, don't worry. This is the great Captain Usopp's plan. There's no way it will fail. Sure. Nami. Usopp spoke up hesitantly after a few seconds. No offense, but we'll still have to hold on long enough for the other two to come here. I know I'm strong and I'll be able to handle them, but still, some might slip past me and come after you. Can you even fight? Well, Nami cattily grinned, we'll just have to wait and see, won't we? Usopp trembled as he nodded and declared, don't worry, I guess I'll have to work a bit harder to make sure you're okay too. Ahaha. Shut it. Don't shout. Nami smacked him and he fell down instantly. Sorry, I'm used to hitting the other two blockheads. So I used the same force, she said apologetically as he helped him up. Gorilla woman, he muttered as he got up, massaging his head, and that earned him another smack, albeit a bit softer this time. Dawn soon arrived, and a ship with a cat figurehead with a Jolly Roger on its sails could be seen arriving on the horizon on their side. Oh no, they're here. Why did we have to pick this shore? Usopp panicked, watching the pirates while Nami calmly pulled out her snail and let the other two know that the pirates were at the north shore. The pirate ship soon docked, and a bunch of bloodthirsty-looking pirates hollered and cheered as they got off the ship brandishing their weapons. A weird man in a purple cloak and heart-shaped glasses seemed to be the leader as he was ordering the others. "All right, my men," Django yelled, "hit the beach, sack the village and capture that estate. Yaw arrr. Pillaging time." The pirates started charging up the hill while Nami and Usopp watched them from behind a tree. Once the first wave of pirates stepped on the area covered with oil, they slipped and fell face first on the ground before the next wave of pirates behind them ended up stepping on them and fell down too. "What the hell? It's slippery, it's oil. Whoa! It actually worked!" Usopp exclaimed with surprise as the pirates became confused and came to a stop at the bottom of the slope. "Why are you the one most surprised by it?" Nami muttered with a sweat drop. Ignoring her and getting bolder, Usopp stepped out and stood right at the top of the hill staring down at all the pirates. "Ahahaha." He laughed, getting everyone's attention. "My name is Captain Usopp. My 10 million men and I have been waiting for you scoundrels. We're fully prepared for battle. You'll be wise to turn back now if you value your lives." 10 million? Django gasped. "He's obviously lying," one of the pirates said, which caused Usopp to go, "Oh no, I was caught," and Django to respond, "You were lying?" while Nami watched blankly at all the idiots. "Captain, we can't get up this slope. It's super slippery," the others started complaining as they kept trying to climb up the slope but kept sliding down after a few steps. "Ha ha ha. That's my deathly trap. Let's see you even attempt to overcome my oil slick plan." "Is that so?" Django drawled as he brought out a ring. "All right men, look at this ring. When I saw 1, 2, Django, you'll all forcibly shove your foot and swords into the ground to climb up the slope as fast as you can no matter what." Is he trying to hypnotize people? As if that would ever work? Nami scoffed but choked on her words when Django said, 1, 2, Django. And suddenly, the pirates cheered and started running up the slope with increased vigor by creating footfalls using their swords and feet. "That's actually working," Usopp gasped before realizing that the pirates were actually managing to climb up the slope. He quickly pulled out his slingshot and loaded his projectiles. "Now it's time for my secret weapon, lead stars." One pirate got hit right on his forehead and he fell backwards before sliding down the oily slope. Usopp yelped in surprise as he kept shooting each one square on the forehead, and the plan seemed to be working as pirates kept losing balance. "It's working, it's working." "Again, why are you surprised by it? Shut up. What are you doing anyway? Go and fight them." "On the oily slope? I'm not going down and fighting them there." "Ha. So looks like it's up to Captain Usopp to take the lead here, ha. "Keep shooting, idiot, they're starting to climb up." The pirates just kept charging up the slope, some using their swords, some burying their feet into the ground to keep balance, and soon enough, with many pirates doing the same thing over and over again, the footfalls became prominent enough that they could climb up easily. "Oh no, they're starting to come up," Usopp panicked. He tried throwing caltrops to slow them down, but Django's hypnotism was in effect and they didn't care as their goal was to climb up the slope. Soon, the first one reached the top of the slope and Usopp trembled when he saw a big man holding an axe coming at him. "Die, you annoying piece of shit." And that's when Nami stepped up and jabbed her shock staff into his midriff with not much force. The pirate paused. Usopp gaped while Nami just stared blankly. "What the hell?" Usopp cried, shaking like a leaf. "You looked so confident, so I thought you were strong, but what the hell? You can't even hit a person properly." "Heh, little girlie," the pirate grinned, "this is a real battle. This is no place for someone like you." Nami just stared as 3 more pirates came up from behind him and grabbed his shoulders to use as support to balance themselves. Their footwear were still slippery. And that's exactly what she was waiting for. They would, of course, hold onto each other for support when they came up, and her strongest suit was the element of surprise after all. So the more people she got in the first attack, the better. When two more came up and grabbed the ones ahead of them, they seemed like they were going to attack, so she gave a cute smile before turning the dial up. Okay, bye-bye. Beast. The whole area froze as they watched 5 pirates get electrocuted and fall down unconscious all at the same time before the bodies slowly slid to about halfway down the slope. Nami didn't wait as she saw a couple more pirates almost at the top and extended her shock staff to reach them and took them out too. She then turned back to Usopp, who was gawking at her, and grinned. You were saying? Luffy sat atop a tree which had a good view of the slope the fight was taking place on and grinned watching the battle play out. Django's hypnotism, which told the pirates to climb up the slope no matter what, was still in effect, so the pirates kept climbing up, even though they looked terrified of Nami. And the two held their own against all of them really well. Usopp was sniping at everyone while occasionally throwing caltrops, while Nami just shocked the ones that came up the slope. A few did manage to climb up as a group, and Usopp got bashed in the head once, and Nami got flung back and crashed into a wall too. But Nami quickly got up and retaliated. The pirates were more wary of her and focused on her, so Usopp managed to trip a couple of them, making them fall, and Nami took that chance to shock them. It wasn't long before Django realized that the two kids had managed to prevent his entire crew from going to the village, and he didn't want to face Kuro's wrath, so he hypnotized his crew again, this time telling them that they were superhumanly strong and that their wounds would heal faster. The pirates roared loudly and one pirate punched a cliff, breaking it off, which truly shocked Nami and Usopp, who gawked at the display of strength. Luffy still didn't interfere but kept a watchful eye on them as he kept watching. What's that noise? Kaya, who had been sleeping next to Luffy on the tree until then, woke up because of the loud ruckus. She was wrapped up in plenty of blankets so that she wouldn't feel the cold and was positioned comfortably on the tree branches. "Ah, Miss Kaya, you're up." Mary, who was also there, smiled, holding onto her. "Mary?" Kaya mumbled, confused. "What's happening?" Mary just pointed towards the shore with a grim expression, and Kaya's eyes widened when she saw a horde of roaring pirates charging up a slope, and at the top, she saw Usopp standing with a slingshot in hand and a determined expression on his face as he sniped at the pirates. Usopp? "Mr. Luffy!" Mary yelled, terrified for the brave young man who had tried to warn them. "Aren't you going to help?" "Don't worry, he finally found his way," Luffy chuckled just as Zoro passed below them. This was actually the third time he had passed by their tree, and thankfully, he was finally going in the correct direction this time. "Well, you explain the situation to Kaya," he said to Mary before jumping off the tree. Zoro burst out of the clearing and appeared at the top of the slope, saw the charging pirates with Nami and Usopp facing them, and ran at them. "Duck!" he yelled while holding 2 swords horizontally outwards. Nami saw him and pushed Usopp to the ground just as Zoro passed above them while twisting his body, swirling strikes. He spun in the air, his outstretched swords spinning as he slashed all the ones at the front of the charging line, and the momentum also flung them back. 2 rotations were all he needed to stop the charge completely as the pirates at the front got flung backwards with enough force to push all the ones behind them back. "They're kinda strong," Zoro muttered, surprised when he noticed quite a few had stood their ground without falling off before charging at him again. He again slashed at them, sending all of them back down the slope. "Wow, I didn't know you were that strong," Usopp said with a sigh of relief. "What took you so long, huh?" Nami demanded before holding up a hand. "Wait, don't answer that, you were obviously lost." "I wasn't lost, sure you weren't." Nami rolled her eyes, and by the way, they weren't that strong before. That hard glasses guy used some sort of hypnosis on them and they suddenly became like that. "Hypnosis, huh?" Zoro nodded as he watched the downed pirates getting right back up again even with all their injuries. "Who are you now?" Django demanded, getting frustrated. "Why are you all getting in our way?" "I told you." Usopp took the chance to boast, "We're fully prepared for battle." "You think these are all the men I have? There are a million more like these 2 under me. I'll give you one last chance to turn back. Leave if you value your lives." "I won't fall for the same trick again. Men, do you really want to anger Kuro? We're already behind schedule." His words died in his throat when he heard cracking sounds from behind him. He looked back only to yelp in shock and dive flat on the ground just as the cat figurehead of their ship swung above him. The other pirates weren't lucky, however, as they got smashed by the figurehead. Luffy dropped the figurehead after swinging it in an arc once and appeared next to the group. Yo. Hey, you took pretty much everyone out, Zoro complained. Don't worry, the stronger ones in their crew are yet to show themselves. Wow, you're a monster too, Usopp mumbled, truly impressed by the strengths of all three. And you're a monster at sniping too. Luffy smiled, giving him a thumbs up. Ah ha ha, of course, I am. Usopp blushed slightly at the praise. They don't call me the Great Sniper King for nothing after all. They were interrupted when an enraged Django cursed them first before calling for Sham and Butchie. Luffy again took the backseat as Nami and Zoro wordlessly stepped up to handle the two Meowban brothers. The brothers started acting weak and scared and pretended like they were only fighting because Django was ordering them to. Nami easily recognized that they were acting and didn't let her guard down, but Zoro did, feeling sorry for them when they started crying too while charging slowly at them. Nami managed to block the claw attack from Sham when he suddenly attacked, but Zoro became surprised by the sudden shift in attitude from Butchie and lost his swords. Ha ha ha, you actually lost your swords? Nami teased, causing Zoro to glare at her, but he quickly turned his glare at Butchie, who threw his swords away while laughing at him. But the next instant, the swords were safely back in Zoro's hands, courtesy of Luffy, much to the two brothers and Django's shock. Zoro wordlessly put Watto in his mouth, angry and embarrassed that he had let his guard down. So you just sit back like this huh? Usopp asked as he and Luffy stayed back watching the two fight. Most times yeah, Luffy said as he picked up and aimed a large rock at Sham. Nami jabbed her shock staff at Sham's stomach and cutely smiled, turning the dial up. Unfortunately, nothing happened and Sham lifted his shirt, showing her that he was unhealthily thin and all Nami had jabbed was empty air. Sham grinned, thinking he had won, and was about to slash her face, but a rock hit him square in the face and he got flung all the way back next to Django, who gaped at them all. Thanks, Luffy, Nami pouted sadly, mad at herself for getting tricked. Butchie fell next to Django not a second later as Zoro was done with him too before he and Nami both came next to Luffy and Usopp again. Wow, you all are like, so in sync, Usopp nodded, impressed. Don't worry. You'll learn how we work soon enough, Luffy said, and Usopp nodded reflexively before tilting his head in confusion. Wait, what? Why WOU? He was interrupted when a loud, worried voice yelled his name, Usopp. All eyes turned, who was being supported by Mary, coming towards them. Kaya. Usopp's eyes bulged out, what are you doing here? Hey, I told you to stay on the tree, Luffy whined at Mary. Wait, you brought her here? He kidnapped us, Mary said, looking a bit peeved as he rubbed his neck. Mary had woken up a few minutes before the battle, and Luffy had briefly explained the situation to him. Even though Mary didn't believe him, Luffy just said, wait for a few minutes, and you'll learn the truth yourself, and calmed him down. Hey, kidnapping is what you do to children, Luffy rebuked. You're adults, so you should be saying that I abducted you. Quote, quote. I don't think that's right, Nami deadpanned but was internally giggling. Well anyway, I was getting bored at the mansion, so I just knocked them both out and brought them here. I wrapped plenty of blankets around her and put them on a tree too, so don't worry. Why? Are you crazy? They're targeting Kaya, she shouldn't be here. It's fine, it's fine. You're here to protect her, aren't you? Usopp flinched, but a moment later, he nodded and stood up straighter. That's right. Leave it to the mighty Usopp. I'll protect her. Can you all please stop talking as if she isn't here? Nami said, pointing at Kaya, who was utterly lost hearing the random and calm conversation they were having while being on a battlefield. When all attention turned to her, she finally snapped out of it and turned to Usopp. Usopp, why you're bleeding? Are you okay? Usopp had blood flowing down his knees and elbows which he had scrapped, and his head was bleeding too, so he did look like he was in an intense battle. Hee, don't worry. These are just battle scar. Again. A loud angry voice reverberated across the shore, interrupting them. What's the meaning of this? Kuro had finally shown up. Luffy and the others sat and watched as Kuro's crew became terrified that he had shown up and was angry at them. Django started making excuses, but Kuro was surprised when he saw Kaya and realized she was there too. "K Klahador," Kaya muttered, her eyes trembling. "You're here? I just saw you in bed." Nami looked at Luffy questioningly and he answered, "I just arranged a couple of pillows to make it look like she was still there." Kuro heard him too and addressed him, "So I can assume you're the one responsible for this whole thing?" "I'll say this only once," Luffy said blankly looking at him, "don't talk to me." Nami, Zoro and Usopp all looked at him confused, wondering why he said that. "Haha, scared of me huh? No matter." Kuro smirked, turning his attention to Kaya, who was crying. "Well, this isn't how I imagined killing you, but this works too." Kaya burst into tears, finally getting confirmation that it was all true. "I was still hoping that this was all a big misunderstanding, but." Kuro just rolled his eyes at her, dismissing her, before looking at his crew while Mary and Usopp comforted her. Kuro taunted his own crew, calling them weak and feeble, which caused the two brothers to mutiny. Kuro quickly showed them their place by showing off his foot maneuver. "So he can use Soru too huh?" Nami commented calmly. "It's way slower though," Zoro said. "I can still follow his movements." "Really? I can't see him at all," Usopp chimed in. Well, you train daily with Luffy moving at much faster speeds, you'll start getting used to it." It was just their private conversation, so Kuro didn't hear them and soon gave them the 5-minute ultimatum, and the Meowban brothers begged Django to hypnotize them and got back into the fight. Nami stepped up again along with Zoro, but when Butchie jumped high in the air and landed like a cat, cracking the ground into pieces, Nami turned right back and came back to the group without missing a beat. "Way above my weight class." "Hey, more fun for me then," Zoro smirked as he flipped back just as Sham came down cracking the ground too, before he lunged at the two brothers. Meanwhile, Kuro was threatening the other crew members to attack too, and before the first pirate mustered up the strength to stand back up, a metal pellet hit him straight on the forehead, courtesy of Usopp, making him fall back down again. Kuro stared at Usopp, who glared back at him. "As long as I'm here, none of you will even get up the slope," he declared before shooting down two more pirates. With the meager strength they had left, they didn't have any more energy to get up again. "Useless, all of you," Kuro spat hatefully at his crew, and Luffy's hands twitched. Kaya yelled at him then, telling him that he could have all her wealth if he just stopped, which caused Kuro to laugh and reveal that he had done everything just so he could acquire her wealth legally and live a peaceful life. He taunted her, saying how every happy moment they had together was a lie and he hated working for her, which caused Kaya to sob and Usopp to finally punch him in the face, making him fall flat on his back. The three Usopp pirates also burst out of the forest then, hitting Kuro with their makeshift weapons and scolding Usopp for lying to them, just as Zoro gave the finishing blow to Sham and Butchie. Kuro slowly got up, watching the surroundings, and found that only Django was standing at the bottom of the slope, doing pretty much nothing. "Can't even beat a bunch of kids, you're all worthless," Kuro growled as he looked at his crew, at Kaya, at Usopp, and then at the three Straw Hats before he got in stance and started swaying weirdly. "What's he doing now?" Usopp asked, confused. "It's the out-of-the-back attack, Captain. Please don't kill us," the Black Cat pirates panicked and begged. "If it makes you feel any better, I'm not killing you because you're all incompetent idiots. I was always going to kill you all. I can't have anyone who knows who I really am to be alive after all." His crew begged for him to stop and Luffy finally stood up. Just as Kuro disappeared, so did Luffy, before they both appeared at the bottom of the slope in front of one of the Black Cat pirates. What?" Kuro stuttered, shocked as his attack was completely halted. His foot was being stomped on and his clawed hand, which was about to reach the Black Cat pirate to end his life, was being held by the Straw Hat Man in front of him. He tried to pry his arm and foot away with all the strength he could muster up, but he couldn't move a single inch and became agitated. "I thought I wouldn't get angry much if you didn't talk to me, but I guess not huh?" Luffy sighed as he increased the pressure and Kuro's wrist twisted upwards as he fell to one knee. "Grrkk, who are you?" Kuro recognized the danger he was in when he saw Luffy's blank eyes and knew he was no match, so tried to negotiate with him. "Luffy, if why you want, we can split the profit. You're the lamest and most uncool pirate I've seen and not at all fit to be a captain." Luffy cut him off. You were taunting Usopp and his crew earlier, telling them that we're just kids playing pirates, weren't you? They're a million times better than you. Fool, Kuro spat, his pride unable to let go of that comment even though he was in pain. I'm inferior to those kids? Huh? Ack? Yep. Unlike you, they have conviction. A loud crunch could be heard, followed by a scream of agony, and everyone at the top of the slope and also the Black Cat pirates at the bottom flinched in unison. Nami gulped, trembling slightly. Well, back with Buggy in his hat. He was just slightly annoyed, huh? Zoro blankly nodded. Yeah, guess this is what angry him looks like. They saw as Luffy lifted his foot up from Kuro's feet, which seemed to be broken as he immediately fell forward. But Luffy didn't let him fall as he lifted him by his broken hand and whipped him once into the ground, which cracked it. And Kuro was done for. The Black Cat pirates saw that their captain was down and, slowly realizing that they were saved, started cheering. Luffy turned to look at them blankly before releasing a Conqueror's Blast. The Straw Hats and the LD only see the back of Luffy's head as he was turning away from them, so it was a shocking sight to see a large group of people instantly fall down unconscious, foaming at the mouth just because a man looked at them. What the hell was that? Usopp shivered. Nami clasped her hands too, feeling a shiver run up her spine too. Did his face look that terrifying or something? Well, Zoro sighed, guess we know why he goofs around always instead of fighting. It's just plain bullying if he did that at the beginning. Luffy sighed, letting his annoyance at Kuro go. He thought he wouldn't feel nothing but apathy towards him, but when he saw Kuro threatening his own crew, he became angry. And when his own crew cheered their captain's defeat, he became annoyed and, not wanting to hear a word more, took them out. He looked around, feeling one more presence who had backed away into the forest far enough that his conquerors didn't reach him, and his face split into a smile when he saw who it was. Django, Luffy waved at him, you're still conscious. PP, please don't hurt me, Django begged, coming out of the clearing, knowing that he wouldn't be able to run away now that he was spotted. There's something strange going on already with me, and now this. You mean how your chakram keeps getting slapped out of your hand? Luffy chuckled. Django trembled more. It was you? Luffy nodded with a grin. Ever since the start of the fight, whenever Django tried to use his chakram for anything other than hypnotizing people, he just sorrowed to him and slapped it out of his hand, which had confused and terrified Django, and he couldn't do anything at all during the fight. As for why Luffy doing it, I was actually saving you for last. I wanted us to battle one-on-one. Me. Django almost lost consciousness, remembering how he had just crushed Kuro. I've never seen Luffy actually issue a challenge like this, Zoro said, studying Django with interest, but just couldn't see anything special in him. I thought Kuro was the strongest here, but it's that guy? They watched intently as Luffy pulled a device out of his pocket, and after fiddling with it for a few seconds, a catchy beat started playing out of nowhere, followed by vocals. All I want to say is that they don't really care about us. Luffy started doing the shuffle to the beat of the song before he pointed at Django, who stared dumbly at Luffy, not understanding what was happening. And the ones at the top of the slope were equally lost. It's a dance-off. You and me, Luffy exclaimed, and almost everyone did a face fault. You meant a dance battle? Luffy laughed as he continued dancing while also singing along to the lyrics. Skinhead, deadhead, everybody gone bad, situation aggravation, everybody, allegation. It was something he had recorded when he was with the Kuja, so the vocals were mostly Leah and him, with the chorus being the other Amazons. Django couldn't help but bob his head to the really catchy tune, and the inner dancer in him awoke when Luffy pointed at him again. He started with a moonwalk, causing Luffy to cheer, before he transitioned into a smooth wave flowing from head to toe a couple of times, and then smoothly transitioned into a wave from hand to hand and finished by pointing back at Luffy. Woo! That was great. Luffy caught the wave from him and did his own smooth wave from hand to hand before breaking into acrobatic spins. Woohoo! That's great, Straw Hat. You're just as good as me. And what song is this? It's one of the best songs I've heard. She thanks. It's a song from an isolated country. The guitar riff started and both got excited as they broke into playing air guitars and went crazy. Yeah. Meanwhile, the rest were just staring at the two in bewilderment. Weren't we just fighting against that guy's crew? Nami muttered, feeling unsure. Did I dream the whole thing up? No, we definitely were fighting. Zoro said as he watched Luffy fall to the ground while doing the worm along with Django. Goofs around, Usopp nodded thoughtfully. I understand now. It's a really great song though, Mary offered, slightly bobbing his head to the beat. I don't recognize some names but very powerful lyrics. Kaya too was just staring at the scene, allowing herself to forget about the whole Kuro thing for just a moment. Really catchy too. Some things in life they just don't want to see, but if Martin Luther was living he wouldn't let this be. No, nope. Luffy sang with passion, raising his voice. A crescendo of, all I want to say is they don't really care about us, played, the entirety of Amazons that were on the ships yelling at the top of their lungs being responsible for it. The three veggie kids burst onto the floor too and the two men cheered, teaching them their moves. That was great, Django panted happily as they finished. You're cool, Django, idiot. Nami finally came running in and smacking him. That's the enemy you were playing around with. Alright. Django also seemed to recall that fact too. I'm sorry I tried to attack a fellow dancer. I'm really sorry. Hey, don't worry about it. You can leave. The rest, however, it's up to her, he said, pointing at Kaya up the slope. Really? You're letting me go? Yeah. Thank you. Django hastily shook Luffy's hand before running to the shore and climbing inside a dinghy that was on their ship. I hope to see you again, Straw Hat. Let's dance together again. Sure thing. Bye-bye. Luffy waved as he rode away before looking at everyone else. Well, that was fun. A few smacks from a huffing Nami followed. Luffy left Mary and his other guards to handle the cleanup where they chained up all the pirates including Kuro. Usopp, Zoro and Nami were taken to Kaya's house to recover from the fight, after Nami stole all their treasure of course, while Luffy chose to go to a neighboring town which had a marine base. Mary had asked him to tell the Marines about Kuro and ask them to send a unit to arrest all the pirates, so he first went to the marine base, informed them about everything, then broke into the captain's office and stole relevant documents as he had done on every island he had been to in East Blue. After that, he went on a bit of a shopping spree and by the time he was done, he had filled up a small cart with all the items he had bought. He pulled the cart all the way back to Syrup Village and it was noon by the time he came back to Kaya's mansion. "Ah, Luffy, you're back," Kaya greeted him. "Yo," he waved as he left the cart in the courtyard and entered the house. "You doing okay?" Kaya gave a small smile as she nodded. "As okay as anyone can be given the circumstances, I guess." "Well, don't break your head thinking that you should have seen the signs or should have known that there was something wrong with your butler. You were vulnerable because of your parents' death and he used that against you." "Yeah," Kaya nodded softly. "Well, hang in there, kiddo," Luffy said, patting her head. "How's your boyfriend?" Kaya directed a pouty glare at him. "Will you stop with that already?" "Hey, you didn't blush. That's an improvement. Stop it." Well, you know you don't have much time with him, don't you?" Kaya froze upon hearing that and hung her head low as she slowly nodded. "I had a feeling, so you'll be taking him with you?" "Yep, I see. Well, it's not goodbye forever. Right now, we're both kids. I was still am an emotionally vulnerable child and Usopp is someone who liked to cheer me up. I was unhealthily dependent on him to make myself happy. Same with Claw Kuro too. I can't keep depending on others forever. I have to grow up too." Luffy was surprised by her words and nodded approvingly. "Looks like someone's self-reflecting and self-analyzing." Kaya smiled. "I kinda started reading a book on human psychology after that day I met you. It's fascinating really. I always wanted to be a doctor and I think I'll major in that." "The brain is fascinating," Luffy agreed, again surprised. "What kin will this cause? Well anyways, have fun. And I promise I'll look after him." Kaya nodded gratefully. "Thanks. Ah, Mary was looking for you earlier. He wanted to show you the ship." Luffy became ecstatic as he could finally meet Mary, the ship. "Let's wait for the others to wake up. Then we can all go together." "It's a caravel," Nami happily cheered as she laid eyes on the ship while Zoro gave an approving nod and Luffy looked up at the going Mary with shining eyes. It was bigger than what he had expected and the sheep figurehead looked really cute. Mary started explaining about the ship and how to navigate it to Luffy but he didn't bother to listen and jumped aboard. He first went up to the figurehead and sat on it humming happily to himself and feeling the wind blowing in his face. "Oh yeah, this is my spot." He ran his fingers softly on the head of the figurehead thinking about all the adventures they had up ahead. All the way from Reverse Mountain to Eni's lobby where the inevitable would happen. He knew that Mary wouldn't be able to handle future adventures after that, especially the new world, so he knew he would have to say farewell to her at Water 7. He became emotional remembering her last words, which were really vivid in Leo's memories as he had bawled his eyes out watching and rewatching that scene. "Hey Mary," he gently introduced himself, leaning down and touching his forehead to the figurehead. "Nice to meet you. My name is Monkey D. Luffy, captain of the Straw Hat Pirates. My dream is to become the Pirate King, and so, we'll be heading to the Grand Line very soon. You'll love that place. It's amazing, beautiful, and the most exciting and fun place in the world. But it's also a very dangerous place, filled with sea kings, massive whirlpools, crazy weather, and whatnot. So, I'll be counting on you to keep my crew safe on our journey. I know what's at the end of this road, but," he vowed, "I promise you that I'll find a way to save you. I promise that you'll be with me until the end, so, let's have fun." He sat back up and looked back to find Zoro leaning against the main mast, adjusting his position a bit before nodding to himself, satisfied. Nami was with Mary learning about the sails and other navigational stuff, and Luffy introduced each member to Mary. He then went exploring all around the ship first before jumping off and hauling the cart of things he had bought up to the Mary. "What's all this?" Zoro asked, coming up to him. There was a tarp covering the whole cart, as Luffy wanted to surprise everyone. "Well, stuff for our new home." Luffy cheered as he removed the tarp, and all eyes first noticed the biggest item there, which was a grand piano. "A piano? Who plays?" Nami asked, confused, coming up to him too. "And why the hell would a pirate ship need a piano?" "You fool," Luffy spat. "A musician is a fundamental part of a pirate crew. Until I get my musician, I'll be the temporary musician for the crew, so I need it." Nami rolled her eyes, thinking he was up to his stupid antics again, before moving on to see the other things. "Well, here's the softest futon I could find for you, but I guess the bed on the ship is already soft," Luffy said, handing a futon to Nami, who buried her face in it and smiled, nodding approvingly. "This is good, I'll use this too. A few welcome mats, some cooking utensils, then there's a swivel chair. Cool, right?" Luffy said, sitting on it and rotating. "Then a couple of beach chairs, umbrellas, water guns, a couple of mirrors, water balloons, party stuff." "You went overboard," Nami groused, interrupting him. "We don't need half this stuff. You're just wasting money. I'll be coming with you next time we shop, and we're buying only the things we need. Got that?" Nami yelled, yanking his vest. "Yes, ma'am." They're acting like a married couple, went through everyone's mind, but no one voiced it out. The things were soon shifted to the ship, with the piano being bolted down on the deck, just outside the kitchen. The stuff they had on their boat was also shifted onto the ship, and Luffy found the bag with the 200 million still there, untouched. Did she really not see this until now? He wondered as he brought it onto the Mary. Just as they were done, a loud shout came from the top of the slope. "Gya! Stop me please!" Usopp screamed as he rolled down the slope with a huge bag on his back. "He's gonna hit the ship," Zoro said, standing in the way with Luffy following him. Both raised one leg up and Usopp crashed into the soles of their feet, coming to a stop. "Thanks, I think," he muttered, rubbing his face. "No problem." "So you're really going?" Usopp, Kaya asked, coming up to him while the three Straw Hats climbed up the ship, ready to leave. "Yes, I must go before my resolve weakens. Don't try to stop me." "I won't, I already had a feeling you might do this. When I return, I'll have even more tall tales to tell you about." Usopp grinned. "Only, they'll all be true." "I'm looking forward to it." Kaya smiled before turning to the others aboard the ship. "Thanks Luffy," Kaya said with a bright smile. "I look forward to seeing you again too. You guys too, Nami and Zoro." "Likewise," they said in unison. Usopp also added his own farewell. "Yeah, safe voyage guys. Hope we see each other again." "Why?" Luffy asked. "Why? Man, don't be so cold," Usopp said, looking hurt. "We're both pirates, so we might cross paths again someday on the high seas. Oh, and also," he opened his huge bag and pulled out something long and vertical wrapped in cloth. "Here's your glider. It isn't finished yet and I still don't know how you're gonna use this, but I think you can finish the rest yourself." "Why? Just finish it for me. Who knows when we'll meet the next time. Just take it now." "What are you talking about? Just get on already, idiot," Zoro grumbled, eager to leave. "Huh? You're already a part of my crew. Come aboard?" Usopp stared in shock for a second before he teared up, jumping in joy. I get to be the captain, right? And soon, they set off, having picked up their fourth crew member. Oh, deep undersea, paradise, again? The fairy felt another person touching her gold trinket and realized it was from the trinket that the straw hat wearing man had. He sure likes to let random people touch it. Does he not know wars were fought over who could touch that trinket before? First were the many women on the ship that was being pulled by huge snakes. Then a green-haired woman had touched it, and now again, she felt that a new person had touched it, so she used her powers to gaze at him. There was no real reason for her to gaze actually, as she could do absolutely nothing but watch, and she had gotten bored of human lives a long time ago. But it had just become a sort of habit over the centuries where she would just peek at any new person who touches her trinkets for a few seconds before stopping. It was late in the night and she saw that the straw hat wearing man was sitting on top of a sheep-like figurehead of a ship. She sensed that her gold trinket was inside the sling bag he had across his chest, and there was no one else on deck. Who touched me? The fairy wondered as she looked around for anyone, but only sensed that there were 3 other people on the ship, but they were all below deck. And that was our adventure on Clockwork Island, the straw hat wearing man said to seemingly no one. Silk decided to stay there while Liz, Anne and Balloon left soon after. We'll probably meet them on the Grand Line and you can see them then. The fairy watched with confusion as the straw hat wearing man talked to no one about someone called Silk, Makino, Buggy, Gaiman and a string of other people. She would have written it off as a crazy man talking to himself, but she could clearly feel that someone new was touching the gold trinket, which seemed impossible as it was inside a bag. Her wings sprouted out from her back and her powers increased as she started observing the surroundings the Straw Hat Man was in, and what Cher had in confusion and surprise. "A Cloudbotterman," she said, uttering actual words from her mouth for the first time in decades. The Cloudbotterman itself wasn't surprising as she had seen a few over the centuries, but what was surprising was the way this particular one had formed. A Cloudbotterman was usually an amalgamation of a water spirit and the spirits of the crew that lived on the ship. When a lot of care and love is received by a ship, a water spirit would inhabit it and it would slowly grow, directly proportional to the amount of love and care the ship is given. The individual personalities of the crew members would also play into how the Cloudbotterman grew, with the ones showing more care having a bigger impact on shaping its personality. And the Cloudbotterman the fairy was currently seeing was a newborn and, more interestingly, had only one person's personality mixed in it, the straw hat wearing man's personality. It was nowhere near fully conscious yet and it would take more time for it to be truly alive, but the base consciousness had already formed, somehow with the love of just one person. What's going on here? She wondered aloud as she stared at the man talking to his ship happily. It couldn't be that the man had been traveling on it for long, as the Cloudbotterman was a newborn. So he had definitely met the ship very recently. How is this possible? For the first time in centuries, she became curious about another person. "Luffy, it's your turn to cook," a orange-haired girl yelled from inside the ship, and the man got off the figurehead to go to her. Luffy, the fairy tested his name on her mouth, finally bothering to learn it. "Are you a creature like me too?" she wondered aloud as her wings glowed brighter, her powers got stronger, and she observed his soul. There was only one other creature like her that she knew of in the world, and that creature existed in the new world, so she became a bit excited to see if this straw hat wearing creature was like her too, but was disappointed. "No, you're just a human. You've eaten a devil fruit too, I see," she said when she noticed a devil fruit essence bound to his soul. She suddenly noticed something strange about his soul, and when she focused on it, she became further confused. His soul is bound very weakly to his body too. Must have had a near-death experience. No, even then, it makes no sense. It's so loosely bound to his body, strange. She watched him the whole time as he cooked, joked around with the girl and a long-nosed man, ate with them, and when the others went to sleep, he went back to the figurehead and resumed telling about his adventures to the ship. And she kept watching him. "Going merry, East Blue, so that should help you guys out, right, Silk?" Luffy talked into his transponder snail, long after midnight. "Yep. Man, we made a bad choice letting go of all the pirates that Bear King had captured, as they just kept coming back with more people, and to be honest, I was skeptical of what Makino could do even if she came here. But she just pulled out a visual transponder snail and called the fucking fleet admiral and the hero of the Marines of all people." Silk's excited voice came through. "Wait, Grandpa's back. Yeah, imagine my shock when I heard that you're his grandson, and that Garp's grandson is a pirate? What the hell? She not much of a story there. I wanted to become a pirate, so I became one. I'm sure there's more to the story, but I won't pry. Anyway, I couldn't see their faces but I could almost hear their jaws dropping when Makino toured the island showing them everything over the visual transponder. Sengoku was like, "Are you telling me that this is an island in East Blue?" with a gobsmacked voice. Oh damn, would have liked to watch that. Hee hee yeah, it was fun. Garp said that he'll personally send a unit of Marines to set up a base here soon. We put up a sign at the base of the island that this island is under Garp's protection, and already half of the pirate attacks stopped. So, we should be safe. Good then. Call me anytime if you need anything, and take care of Makino. Okay cool and I will. Bye, Kachik. Luffy smiled feeling happy and dialed another number. His happy mood melted away when the snail didn't connect. I hate you so much, I think I might hate you more than Spandam, Luffy said with a straight face as he looked at the transponder snail in his hand, which had again failed in connecting to Reiju. The snail didn't care as it lazily went back to sleep and he sighed as he put it back into his bag. Ever since he had separated from her in South Blue, he called her pretty much every single day at random times and not once had the snail connected to hers. He wanted to talk to her so badly, but the stupid transponder snails didn't work. You think I'm being mean to the snail? He asked Mary as he sat on her figurehead staring up at the night sky, full of stars. Yeah, guess so. I'll give it more leaves to eat tomorrow. It's so frustrating that it's useless, you know. He didn't actually hear Mary talking and was just pretending like he was conversing with her. He looked around himself as he continued talking to Mary, and Spandam? He's this asshole we'll meet one day. He again looked around, saw the sea, the deck, the crow's nest, and used his observation to sense his surroundings too, but no one was there. Who's spying on me? He said aloud as he kept trying to find someone. It had been some time since he started feeling like someone was watching him but he had no idea who or how. He first wondered if it was Mary's spirit but this wasn't the first time he had felt this gaze. Back when he was with Amazons, and at different points during the past few months, he would randomly feel like someone was watching him, and he had no idea who it was. With the limited information he had, he looked up into the sky and with a bit of hope, asked, "That you, Leo?" White had said that he could pull souls out of the soul plane even after they got integrated into it, but the soul wouldn't be able to go back to any universe though. I hope White came back for you and pulled you out and it's you who keeps watching me from time to time, he said looking up into the sky, and if it really is you, then hey, how y'all doing? I hope you met Serena. Oh, buffer space, just outside the soul plane. White snapped his fingers and a couple of seconds later, a white mist came flying out of the soul plane and formed into the familiar figure of a black-haired man wearing a red hoodie. Leo slowly opened his eyes, feeling like he had just woken up from a very long dream, and blinked a few times to find himself in the buffer space in front of the higher dimensional being he had once met. White? Yo, it's been a while. A while? Wait, aren't I supposed to be really dead? How am I here? I told you right? I can pull you out even if you get integrated into the soul plane. I vaguely remember you saying that. Yeah. Wait, what happened to Luffy? Did the plan work? Did Reiju save him? Yep, hell yeah. Leo pumped his fists feeling ecstatic that he had managed to help Luffy. Wait, if you've pulled me out now, Leo said looking hopeful, can you send me to his universe? I want to travel with Luffy. Again, I've already told you. A soul which has been inside the soul plane for even a moment can never enter any universe ever again. Ah, Leo deflated, sighing with a pout. He then looked around everywhere to find just black space with clusters of purplish clouds here and there before looking back at White. So, why did you pull me out? White shrugged, just a whim. I was just watching Luffy and he talked about you, so felt like pulling you out. Ooh, we can watch him? Show me. I can. You can't. Is he safe at least? What's he doing? He just recruited Usopp and got Mary. Who started his journey already, huh? Is he okay? Going on his journey while knowing the Fu? White sighed, cutting him off. Chem bored. Right. Leo sighed. A few seconds of silence later, he asked, so what exactly do you want me to do here? Glad you asked. White smiled, snapping his fingers, and the next moment, the two were standing on a small rocky island surrounded by an endless stretch of dark bluish sea. The sky was still the same blackness with purplish streaks everywhere, so they were still in the buffer space. "Here ya go," White said as he suddenly handed Leo a button. "You can pull anyone you want out. But don't go overboard and pull out too many people." White then pointed to a huge mansion on the edge of a cliff. "You can live in that mansion and there are robots there which can build you anything or get you anything you want. Okay, that's about it I guess. Toodles." White disappeared after saying his piece, not even letting Leo get a word in, and Leo stood dumbly all alone on a rocky island. He looked at the mansion and then at the button in his hand, trying to process what had just happened. Did he say I can pull anyone out? He slowly and hesitantly pressed the button while thinking of a specific girl, and a second later, a white mist came flying in front of him and formed into the figure of a brown-haired girl. She was a tall and slim black-eyed girl who was wearing a full-sleeved crop top hoodie and full-length cargo pants. "Serena," Leo breathed, tearing up as he watched her slowly open her eyes and blink a few times, regaining consciousness. "Leo?" Serena's sweet voice, which he had missed so much, graced his ears again, and Leo lunged at her, bringing her into a bear hug with unbridled joy. "Oof, what the hell?" Serena groaned, feeling the breath knocked out of her because of the tight hug. "Leo? Too tight, too tight." "Right, sorry." Leo smiled, loosening the grip around her but still didn't let her go. "I missed why, it's great to see you again." "Didn't I get shot?" Serena asked, looking down at her stomach and touching to see the wound but found none. Look around you, idiot," Leo chuckled, and when Serena did, her jaw dropped. "We're in space. Did I go into a coma and this is the far future?" "Yeah. You were put in cryo sleep after you went into a coma. This is the year 2150 and Earth just got destroyed. We're the last humans left," Leo delivered with a straight face. "Even if that was true," Serena deadpanned, "there's no way someone with lack of survival skills like you would ever survive, so get a better story." Leo laughed. "I'm actually pretty amazing at surviving in jungles and forests now, and the truth is way more unbelievable. But first," Leo paused as he gently held her neck, looking into her eyes, before smashing his lips against hers. "Leo, you've finally lost it, huh?" Serena said after a few hours of explanations and exploration of the mansion. "I know you were a bit too obsessed with One Piece given how excited you got in bed whenever I cosplayed as Robin, but this is too much even for you." She, I wonder how Luffy is actually dealing with women. "Why the hell are you laughing like Luffy? I told you. I have his memories, so my personality got influenced by him too." "You seem to truly believe what you're saying, huh?" Serena said, still not believing him. "Oh come on. We're in the afterlife." Yeah, that I believe. I even believe that you met a higher dimensional being. But you meeting Luffy is where I draw the line. And you're his counterpart in our universe. What does that make me? Nami? Hancock? Wait, is Luffy actual? Oh, so you do believe me? No. I don't. Ask White to send us to him then. I want to see him with my own eyes. Can we watch Luffy at least? Nope, then I won't believe you, Serena pouted, crossing her arms. Leo chuckled, ruffling her hair, knowing she did believe him, but was just mad that she couldn't meet Luffy herself. "Well, I got the next best thing." Leo smiled, and Serena gave him a sideways glance and watched as his clothes changed from the red hoodie he was wearing to a black suit. They could change clothes with just a thought there, something they had learned earlier when they tried to rip the clothes off of one another. "Why a suit? You change too. Something mafia-like." Serena wondered what he was up to, but did change into a long black dress. They then went to the dining room in the mansion, and Leo sat in the lead chair with Serena on his lap. It was a long dining table with seats on either side with candles and food arranged in a very professional manner. "Haven't we always talked about how awful it was for the characters in flashbacks?" Leo began, and wondered how amazing it would be if they got to know that their loved ones turned out great in the end. Serena's eyes widened as she realized where Leo was going with this and gulped in excitement. "Yeah." Leo smiled wide as he put a cigar in his mouth and then pushed the button White had given him 6 times while thinking about specific people. "Let's start with 6. Be cool, okay? We have to make a good first impression." Before Serena could respond, sudden bright strings of white light radiated out of seemingly nowhere and coalesced into 6 figures at 6 seats, 3 on either side, of the dining table. A blonde woman with a tuft covering one eye, a young blue-haired girl with a katana strapped to her waist, A long white-haired woman wearing a trench coat. A black-haired woman with a prominent long nose. A woman with unique mohawk-styled fuchsia-colored hair. And an eccentric-looking old man wearing a black hat all opened their eyes at the same time. Each one blinked a few times, slowly regaining consciousness and confusedly watched the others looking around, not being able to understand the situation when Leo clapped his hands getting their attention and smiled at each one of them. "Welcome, guests," he began in a dignified mafia boss-like manner. "You must all be wondering why I gathered. Why? Kaya." Serena suddenly screamed. "It's Olvia. It's Nico Olvia, Leo. Leo. Look." She shook him, unable to contain her excitement. "Look, it's Olvia. And oh my god, it's Belmir. Leo. Look, it's Belmir." She jumped out of his lap and went to each one leaping with joy. Leo's eye twitched as he tried to maintain the mysterious mafia boss character he was playing but sighed, letting it go when Serena looked like a fool as she ran around the room. He loved her, but she could be a bit stupid and get tunnel vision sometimes. Now there was a sudden loud snap making him and everyone else flinch, and they all looked at the young blue-haired girl who had a furious expression on her face. "What the fudge is going on? Did you kidnap me?" "Wow, Kuina says fudge," Leo smirked. "How cute, you." Kuina growled angrily at him before pointing her sword at him. "I'll cut you." At the same time, Belmir also suddenly stood up and looked around frantically. "Where the hell is this? Where are my daughters?" Looked like each one was regaining their memories slowly as Olvia suddenly stood up next, frantically looking around in a panic, and Sora and Banchina hung their heads low. Hirulik was the only one who was smiling and watching the surroundings with interest. Okay, calm down." Leo tried to get the situation back in control. Kuina seemed to be the one who was the most agitated, so got her attention first. "Kuina, you must remember what happened, right?" "What the hell are you talking about? The last thing I remember is fire and getting burned." Olvia spoke up, regaining some sense of calmness before a look of horrified realization came across her face. "Robin. I remember my health deteriorating and dying on bed," Sora chimed in, still sitting down but had a somber expression on her face. "Me too," Banchina added with a similar expression. "Getting shot," Belmir slowly said, calming down but had a serious frown. "Blowing up with a bomb," Hirulik said with a huge smile. Kuina glared at them all with a confused expression. "What are you all on about? You're dead." Leo, featuring despair-filled expression each one had, and realized that he had made a mistake. He was thinking of them as characters and trying to act out some cool fantasy, but they were all very real people with very real emotions. All of them remembered the last thing that happened to them, and some of them had died in very horrific ways, and one of them was even a child. He caught Serena's eyes and she had also calmed down, seemingly having come to the same conclusion too. "I'm sorry," Leo apologized, looking at everyone. "Yes, you're all dead. This is kinda like the afterlife." Kuina struck the table again. "Wah, Kuina," Serena interjected and gave it to her straight. "You fell down the stairs. You died." Kuina's eyes trembled as she refused to accept the fact. "No, it was just some stairs. There's no way I wou." "Kuina. I'm sorry, but you're dead. The sooner you accept that fact, the better," Leo said before looking at all the others and bowed his head down deeply. "I'm really sorry. I didn't consider the moral implications of this. I just kinda love all of you, so was excited to meet you all, that's all." "You know me?" Hirulik asked, surprised. "I don't think I've ever seen you." "Dr. Hirulik," Leo smiled wide, "you have no idea how much I look up to you. Your final words are immortalized in my mind and also in the minds of millions." "Millions? Yes, may I know how this is possible?" Olvia interjected. "Are you perhaps a god?" No, just a normal person who also died. It's a long explanation, I promise I'll give you, but first, are you all okay?" "I am just confused by all this. What exactly is going on here?" Sora asked. Belmir, on the other hand, was biting her lip in frustration. "What happened after I died? There was a monster near my daughters. Are they safe?" Leo sighed. "Yes, they're safe, kinda. What does that mean?" Belmir demanded. "If you know what happened after our deaths, I want to know what happened to Robin. Did she escape safely? Did my kids turn out well, Sanji and Reiju at least? And Chopper? How did he handle my death? Is Usopp okay after my death?" Okay. I know you all have Questio. A loud scream of, "No," interrupted him and a distressed-looking Kuina ran to the door. She pushed open the door intent on getting away from everyone, but froze in shock when she saw what the outside looked like. The door opened up into the backyard, so the endless stretch of dark bluish sea and the literal blackness stretching into the sky with swirls and streaks of purplish clouds here and there, overwhelmed her. The others could also see the outside through the open door and slowly walked outside staring at the sky in bewilderment and wonder. "It's beautiful," Sora, Banshina and Hirulik muttered at the same time. "Fascinating," Olvia breathed. "So we really are dead," Belmir sighed. They all stayed there for a few moments, coming to terms that they were dead and still somehow conscious again. Leo walked up and sat next to Kuina, who had collapsed to her knees, and gently patted her head, calming her down. "I know I died," she said looking up at the sky in wonder and acceptance. "I just didn't want to accept it. Sorry your life ended so soon, kiddo. Guess the universe got too scared that you would have become too awesome if left alive." Kuina's lips twitched slightly upwards as she wiped her tears away and sighed deeply. "That stupid anvil." "Anvil? Yeah, I was carrying an anvil while going up the stairs. I slipped and the last thing I remember is the anvil falling on my face." "Ah, so that's what happened," Serena nodded. "To be honest, you dying just because of falling off some stairs never made sense." "And how exactly do you know about her? About us?" Banshina asked. "Let me show you," Leo said as he walked back in and the rest slowly followed. Leo pulled out a big box from under the dining table and Serena joined him. When she saw it was filled with books, she nodded in understanding before she picked up a few books and started handing them out to everyone. "A comic book?" Sora asked, tilting her head in confusion. "Is that Nami?" Belmir yelped in surprise seeing her daughter on the cover. "What the hell?" The rest however still didn't know what to make of it. "I'm afraid, Mr. Olvia began. Just call me Leo." "Okay, Leo. I'm afraid this isn't my preferred medium of reading. I do not understand what this is." Serena handed her another book. "This is a future volume." Olvia's looked at the cover and her eyes widened with shock. "Me? No Robin?" "And this is another," Serena said as she held up another book which had all the Straw Hats on it. And almost everyone recognized their loved ones. "What's the meaning of this?" Hirulik asked as he leafed through the book. "It's your children's lives in the form of a comic book. Just start reading from the beginning. I promise I'll explain later." They nodded blankly and eagerly started reading, well everyone except Kuina. "Children, you do know I'm 11, right?" Kuina scowled. "Well, loved ones then," Leo chuckled holding out a book to her and she took a moment to recognize him. "Is that Zoro? That chump who kept losing to me?" Leo chuckled at the description of Zoro and the book was snatched out of his hand as she too began leafing through the book. "This sure didn't turn out like what you hoped, huh?" Serena asked coming up to him. "Yeah, I was too rash. Well, it'll just take time, anyway, so it was all true. You did meet Luffy." She yeah. "At least now you believe me." The others soon called for help as they couldn't figure out what the correct way of reading the manga was, and Serena went to help them out. Meanwhile, Leo sat on a windowsill watching them all and wondering what exactly he was doing. White did say he was watching Luffy, so probably for entertainment, was his best guess, but what was the point of pulling him out? He sighed not understanding but was just happy to be reunited with Serena and also getting the chance to meet the people at the table. He stared outside, looking up at the dark sky and smiled. "Hey, Luffy. How ya doing? Hope you're enjoying your journey."